Chapter 39. Ning Cheng also saw the approaching ship, and was surprised in his heart. He urgently needed to find someone to ask for directions, but he was afraid of being seen. In the Mingot city, he had offended two major forces, so the ships here were definitely related to the Mingot city. Once they recognized him and an E, then their ending would certainly not be good. In just a moment, the ship was already close to Ning Cheng's ship. Haha, I did not expect to meet Brother Ning and your cousin in the boundless Mingot Sea, it really is fate. A hearty laughter came. Ning Cheng at this time already recognized who this person was. It was Lo Buohong who had helped him out in the Mingot city. Lo Buohong appearing here at this time, simply did not need to think, he definitely came back from the Lansha Island, but he did not know what his harvest was. To be able to meet Brother Lo in the Mingot Sea, it really is fate. Ning Cheng also smiled as he cupped his fists and said. But in his heart he was somewhat helpless. Lo Buohong would certainly ask him what he was doing here. How should he answer? If he said that he came back from the Lansha Island, then that would be an idiot statement. Sure enough, Lo Buohong immediately asked, Brother Ning is really courageous, you even dared to kill the Mingot city's Miao Wenhong, this Lo really admires you. Not only that, but Brother Ning also dared to stay at the edge of the Mingot Sea, it really is courageous. Ning Cheng saw Lo Buohong's eyes sweep over the pile of sea beast materials at the bow of his ship, and instantly understood why Taoist Pu had piled up so many sea beast materials here. In his heart he could not help but admire Taoist Pu. In terms of experience, he was far inferior to Taoist Pu. Taoist Pu had these sea beast materials. It was clear that he was looking for an excuse to go out to sea. Ning Cheng, with a calm look on his face, said, Miao Wenhong was too much of a bully. If I did not have a high-level thunder talisman, my cousin and I would have been killed by this person. Killing this person, I was just acting in self-defense. Acting in self-defense? Lo Buohong took a while to understand the meaning of Ning Cheng's words, and immediately agreed, Brother Ning killed him. If this kind of second-generation ancestor fell into my hands, I would not hesitate to kill him. Ning Cheng was speechless in his heart. You are from the Clear Heart Academy. If you want to kill Miao Wenhong, then of course there would not be any problem. Lo Buohong did not seem to think about his own backer. After saying those words, he stared at the pile of materials from the sea beasts on the bow of the ship and said, Brother Ning, you are already at the Qi gathering 4th level. These materials from the sea beasts can only be exchanged for a few gold coins. Although you have made a lot of them, they are not of much help to your cultivation. Ning Cheng pretended to be helpless and said, How could I not know about this? But my cousin and I are just two rogue cultivators, we do not have any backing, and our cultivations are poor. In addition to collecting some materials from the sea beasts in the Mingot Sea, we really have nowhere else to go. After Lo Buohong heard Ning Cheng's words, he then said, Brother Ning, if you believe in this Li's words, why don't you come with me to the Clear Heart Academy to have a look? Even if elder Brother Ning could not enter the Clear Heart Academy, doing some work at the side of the academy, would be much better than living in the Mingot Sea. What's more, Brother Ning has offended the Mingot City's Wolf Palace. If you take your cousin to survive in the vicinity, it would be somewhat difficult. Ning Cheng saw Lo Buohong's eyes sweep over Yi's body from time to time. How could he not know what he was thinking? But what he said was right, the Mingot Sea was really not a place where he could continue to stay. What Brother Lo said is right. Before Brother Lo told me that the Clear Heart Academy would recruit students from the entire Ping continent in a year's time, I am collecting these sea beasts, in order to find some money to travel to the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng said to Lo Buohong. Lo Buohong looked at Ning Cheng and replied, Elder Brother Ning, please forgive me for speaking frankly. If Elder Brother Ning intends to rely on gold coins to travel to the Clear Heart Academy, even if you leave immediately, it would be very difficult to reach the Clear Heart Academy within a year. Half a month later, there will be an airship passing by the Mingot City. We are going to take this airship back to the Clear Heart Academy. If Elder Brother Ning does not mind, you can come with us. Ning Cheng was moved in his heart, but immediately shook his head and said, I and the two major forces of the Mingot City have enmity. moreover even if there is an airship passing by, I do not have enough gold coins to pay for it. Lo Buohong laughed and said, Elder brother Ning, you should not have sat in this airship is a large artifact, and does not accept gold coins. At least you will need chi-gathering stones, but for a long distance, they do not even accept chi-gathering stones, they only accept low-grade spirit stones. Low-grade spirit stones. Ning Cheng repeated the words, his face showed some shock. The woman standing behind Lo Buohong suddenly said, rather than stopping in the middle of the sea, it would be better to come on board our ship and talk. Although Ning Cheng did not know the name of this woman, but he had seen her once in the Mingat city. Chi-gathering 7th level, according to the badge on her chest, she should also be from the Clear Heart Academy. After Lo Buohong listened to the woman's words, he apologetically said to Ning Cheng, Elder brother Ning, let me introduce you, this is junior apprentice sister Lu Shui. Then he pointed to the other two people and said, these two are Yin Wenguang and Su Xiang, this time the four of us came out together to gain experience, this time we were in the Mingat Sea for many days, and just came back. Junior apprentice sister Lu Shui's words are also reasonable, elder brother Ning might as well abandon the ship and travel with us. One had to say that Lo Buohong's words were very graceful. He asked Ning Cheng to abandon the ship, he did not say that his ship was not worth anything, it would be better to abandon it. This time Ning Cheng did not hesitate, and directly winked at an E. He took out a cloth bag from the cabin, and then brought an E onto Lo Buohong's ship. Ning Cheng's ship did not have any control, and instantly separated from Lo Buohong's ship, and disappeared into the boundless sea. Seeing Ning Cheng abandon the ship and travel with them, Lo Buohong enthusiastically said, the fare from the Mingat city to the Clear Heart Academy is 2 spirit stones per person, elder brother Ning, as for your spirit stones, Ning Cheng knew what Lo Buohong wanted to say, he quickly waved his hand and said, I have a knife here, elder brother Lo can help me see how much it is worth. Is it enough for the fare? While speaking, Ning Cheng took out the knife that he had taken from San Pai from the cloth bag. Before Feng Fei Zhang had helped him pay for the fare, he still owed Feng Fei Zhang a favor, so he could not help much. At this time Ning Cheng was not willing to owe people a favor for no reason. Hey, elder brother Ning also has a low-grade artifact. Lo Buohong saw Ning Cheng take out the knife, and immediately said in a surprised voice. But he immediately guessed, that this artifact should belong to Miao Wenhong. This knife is worth 4 spirit stones, give it to me. Lu Shui, who had invited Ning Cheng and an E to board the ship, suddenly said. When Ning Cheng heard Lu Shui's words, he knew that his knife was not worth 4 spirit stones. Lu Shui should have said that to help him. Even if he knew that Lu Shui would help him, Ning Cheng still handed the knife to Lu Shui and said, Thank you senior apprentice sister Lu, you do not need to give me the spirit stones, when the time comes, I can ask senior apprentice sister Lu to help me pay for the fare. Seeing that Ning Cheng did not want to take advantage of Lo Buohong, the few people here changed their opinion of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng also introduced an E to them, and soon the few of them became friendly, and even more familiar with each other. Ning Cheng also learned from Lo Buohong that they really came back from the Lansha Island. This time there were hundreds of cultivators who went to the Lansha Island, there were even cultivators at the Qi gathering 1st level and 2nd level. But after these cultivators entered the Lansha Island, they directly disappeared without a trace. Lo Buohong and the others had a set of advanced level defensive array disc on them, so they were able to survive. But the few of them did not dare to continue to search the island, and immediately returned. I am sure, that the Lansha Island has the golden cicada fruit, was fabricated by someone. The dark-skinned Yin Wenguang said with some indignation. Ning Cheng asked in doubt, why is elder brother Yin so sure? Didn't you say that someone had already obtained the golden cicada fruit from the Lansha Island? Ning Cheng knew that the Lansha Island definitely had the golden cicada fruit, otherwise it would be impossible for him to get this kind of thing from Taoist Pu. Lo Buohong smiled and said, Elder brother Ning does not know, this Wenguang is from the Clear Heart Academy's medicinal liquid branch, he specializes in all kinds of medicinal liquids, and is also in contact with pills, so this Wen Guang has a certain degree of certainty in his words. Ning Cheng already knew what medicinal liquids were, but in his heart he was thinking that this Clear Heart Academy was just like the universities on earth. It seems that there were various branches. Wen Guang was also not modest, and directly said, the golden cicada fruit is a very fragrant spiritual fruit before it matures. The Lansha Island is only in this area. If there was a golden cicada fruit, I would definitely be able to smell it. After we entered the island, there was not even the slightest aroma of the golden cicada fruit. I knew that the Lansha Island should be a scam. Elder brother Lo, the Clear Heart Academy has a medicinal liquid branch. Does it also have a refining branch, a ray formations branch, and so on? Ning Cheng was not willing to talk about the topic of the Lansha Island. He was more interested in the Clear Heart Academy. Lo Buhong shook his head and said, that is not the case. I heard that in the intermediate class continent 6-star academies, there is already such a division. The Clear Heart Academy does not have this kind of strength. In addition to the medicinal liquid branch, the rest are all mixed together. They are only divided according to their cultivation level. Of course, some of the disciples with excellent qualifications can worship a single master. Disciples who are able to find a master on their own will be able to obtain more cultivation resources. Ning Cheng suddenly asked, your cultivation level is so high, are you able to worship a single master? Lo Buhong chuckled and said, Elder brother Ning, we are only in the Qi gathering realm, it simply does not count as anything. At my age, in the Qi gathering realm, it can only be said to be above average. I can barely enter the core classes. Ning Cheng had always thought that the 3-star academies were only a so-so. The really good academies should be Ji Luo Fei's Falling Star 5-star academy. Now that he heard Lo Buhong's words, Ning Cheng was really surprised. Listening to Lo Buhong's words, the Clear Heart 3-star academy's Qi gathering late-stage students were really common. There were also many students in the true condensation realm. Seeing Ning Cheng surprised, Lo Buhong suddenly asked, Elder brother Ning looks to be very young, but you are already at the Qi gathering 4th level, presumably your qualifications are not bad, right? Ning Cheng said with a wry smile, I only have a 3-line hybrid support spiritual root. The reason why I was able to reach the Qi gathering 4th level, is because I coincidentally obtained 5 good Qi gathering pills. If Lo Buhong asked about the origin of the Qi gathering pills, Ning Cheng would push out Ji Luo Fei's paternal aunt as a shield. Ning Cheng's words made Lo Buhong and the others look at each other. In their view, Ning Cheng was able to advance to the Qi gathering 4th level in this kind of resource-deficient environment. His spiritual root was certainly not bad. But they did not think that he would only have a trifling 3-line hybrid support spiritual root. This kind of spiritual root was really not worth making friends with. Chapter 40. Not to mention that Ning Cheng had used 5 Qi gathering pills, and was only able to advance to the Qi gathering 4th level, it could be seen that his spiritual roots were mixed to such a degree. It was simply tragic. Ning Cheng, your spiritual roots are so bad, why didn't you give the Qi gathering pills to your cousin Ani? Is your cousin's spiritual root as bad as yours? Lu Shui directly called out Ning Cheng's name. Ning Cheng did not care, this world was very realistic. His spiritual root was bad, obviously he did not have a future. Letting a Qi gathering 7th level person call him brother Ning, it was really not realistic. This did not have much to do with looking down on him. In fact, birds of a feather flock together. This sentence was applicable everywhere. He and Lo Buhong, Lu Shui and the others were not in the same group. Now that Lu Shui asked about Ani, Ning Cheng quickly said, my cousin has a pure wood spiritual root, it's 100,000 miles better. But when she was a child, she went with her master, until her master passed away, I found her. At that time, I had already eaten all the Qi gathering pills. If Ani's spiritual root was even worse, maybe Lo Buhong would not have brought them to the Clear Heart Academy. Leaving him and his cousin in the Mingot Sea, he was really not sure that they could escape the pursuit of the Mingot City's forces. Junior apprentice sister Ani, do you have a pure wood spiritual root? Lu Shui's eyes lit up, and immediately asked. Not only Lu Shui's eyes lit up, but the rest of the people also looked at an with envy. A pure wood spiritual route going to the Clear Heart Academy would definitely be accepted by a master. An nodded and said, yes, I have a pure wood spiritual route. Knowing that an had a pure wood spiritual route, Lo Buohong and the others were even more enthusiastic, but this enthusiasm had already been transferred from Ning Cheng to an. Ning Cheng did not care, pure spiritual routes were valued, he already knew that it was a matter of course. Ning Cheng followed Lo Buohong and the others back to the Mingot city 3 days later. This was the second time that Ning Cheng had come to the Mingot city. The first time Ning Cheng had only stayed here for less than half an hour, before he had to leave. This time he was also helpless. If he did not follow Lo Buohong, he simply did not know how to get to the Clear Heart Academy. The Mingot city was still the same as before, but at the entrance of the Mingot city, there was a very short, fierce-looking man. Ning Cheng, this person is called Miao Li Hu, and is the great mansion master of the Wolf Palace. The Miao Wenhong that you killed was his son. I heard that this person is extremely protective of his people. You don't have to worry, there are people from our Clear Heart Academy, he won't dare to do anything to you. After Lo Buohong knew that Ning Cheng only had a hybrid support spiritual route, plus he was much older than Ning Cheng, he no longer called him Brother Ning. However, he was still quite polite, other than the way he addressed him, he did not change anything else, he did not know if it was related to an or not. Even without Lo Buohong's words, Ning Cheng could feel that this person was staring at him with an intense killing intent. Lo Buohong said that this person was Miao Wenhong's father and it seemed like he was not wrong. Did you kill my son Wenhong? Miao Li Hu casually cupped his fists towards Lo Buohong and the others, and fiercely stared at Ning Cheng and asked. Ning Cheng's heart sank, he felt that Miao Li Hu simply did not put Lo Buohong and the others in his eyes. Moreover, Miao Li Hu's cultivation level, he could not see through it. Since he could not see through it, it could be seen that Miao Li Hu was undoubtedly a cultivator in the true condensation realm. Who is your son? Ning Cheng said as if nothing had happened, while in his heart he was thinking that if Lo Buohong could not help him, then what should he do? My son is Miao Wenhong, he went to chase you, and then did not come back. Did you not kill my son? Leave your head as a sacrifice to my son. Miao Li Hu shouted, he took a step forward, and was about to attack Ning Cheng. Lo Buohong did not think that Miao Li Hu would not even put him in his eyes, he also took a step forward, his face sank and said, Miao Li Hu, what do you mean by this? Could it be that my Clear Heart Academy is not even worth mentioning in your eyes? Miao Li Hu's eyes were red as he stared at Lo Buohong and said, I have always respected the Clear Heart Academy, my son was now killed, and the person who killed my son is not from the Clear Heart Academy. Does the Clear Heart Academy want to stop me from avenging my son? Lo Buohong did not think that Miao Li Hu, who had always been afraid of the Clear Heart Academy, would dare to argue with him. His face immediately turned red with anger. Lu Shui came forward and said, Lord Miao, it does not matter if you kill Ning Cheng, but I am sure that if you kill Ning Cheng now, 1 month later, the name of the Wolf Palace will be removed, and no one from the Miao family will be left alive. Lu Shui's words made Miao Li Hu shiver, his hatred suddenly cooled down a lot. If the people from the Clear Heart Academy were determined to protect this kid called Ning Cheng, he simply could not kill him, unless he was willing to flee to the ends of the earth. But why would this kid let the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy come forward? Thinking of this, Miao Li Hu calmed down a lot, he turned to Lu Shui and cupped his fists and said, I, Miao Li Hu, am very clear about gratitude and grudges, this kid is not from the Clear Heart Academy, I am very clear about it. If the Clear Heart Academy wants to destroy my Wolf Palace, it would be a simple matter, but they can't distinguish between right and wrong, and not speak about morality, right? Lu Shui sneered and said, not distinguish between right and wrong, not speak about morality. Lord Miao, these words can be said by others, but you are slapping your own face. What kind of trash is your precious son, who in the Mingot city does not know? You can only let your son kill people, but others cannot kill your son, right? After saying these words, Lu Shui was too lazy to talk with Miao Li Hu, and directly pointed to an Yi and said, "She is Ning Cheng's cousin. Do you know who she is from the Clear Heart Academy? An Yi has a pure wood spiritual root. I am a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy. I am fully qualified to recommend her to become a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy." So, an Yi is now equivalent to a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy, and Ning Cheng is her cousin. If you do not want the Wolf Palace, and are willing to destroy the Miao clan, then you can kill him. Because Miao Li Hu did not give him even a little face, at this time Lu Buhong's face was already gloomy. After Lu Shui finished, he did not wait for Miao Li Hu to answer, and continued in a cold voice, "Miao Li Hu, don't think that this is the Mingot city. You are already a cultivator of the true condensation realm, and you can strut around. I really do not put you in my eyes. As long as I use the name of the Clear Heart Academy to kill you, I am sure that there will be a lot of people coming to take your head." Miao Li Hu at this time completely calmed down, his hands were clenched so tightly that his veins were showing. But he was very clear that Lu Buhong was not lying, once he angered the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy. Even in the Mingot city, there were a lot of people who were willing to sell their lives for the Clear Heart Academy. He was just a cultivator of the true condensation realm. He really did not count as anything. In the Mingot city, the Wolf Palace was not a hegemon. Even if he took a step back, no one would help the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng had a cousin with a pure spiritual root. He could not do anything to Ning Cheng, unless he killed him together. Miao Li Hu fiercely stared at Ning Cheng, but finally gave up. He turned around and quickly disappeared from the Mingot city. He had to kill Ning Cheng, but he had to change the method. Ning Cheng turned to Lu Buhong and Lu Shui and cupped his fists in gratitude, but in his heart he was also secretly determined. He must hold his fate in his own hands. This kind of feeling really made people uncomfortable. At this time he had hundreds of spirit stones on him, and also a golden cicada fruit. Who knows if he could advance to the true condensation realm. It's just a small matter. Let's wait in the Mingot city for a few days. At most in a few days, the airship heading to the Ming-Yi country will pass through here. Lu Buhong said very casually. Ning Cheng and an Yi, under the arrangement of Lu Buhong, also stayed in the same rest stop as the people from the Clear Heart Academy. From time to time Lu Shui would look for an Yi to talk, to discuss cultivation level, and to build a good relationship. After knowing that Ning Cheng had a hybrid support spiritual root, other than Lu Buhong, who occasionally came to talk to him, no one else came to look for him. Ning Cheng was self-aware, and did not look for Lu Buhong and the others to build a good relationship. He did not dare to cultivate in the rest stop, and simply began to study array formations. His understanding of array formations was already at the entry level, and now he concentrated all his energy on studying array formations. With the help of the mysterious yellow qi, the level of his array formations advanced by leaps and bounds. On this day, Ning Cheng was arranging a level 2 attack array formation, when an Yi knocked on the door and came in. "Big brother Ning." An Yi had just called out, when Ning Cheng waved his hand and said, "An Yi, call me by my name, or cousin." How could a cousin call her cousin Big Brother Ning? An Yi simply omitted the word Ning and said, "Big brother, the airship has stopped outside the Mingot city. Senior apprentice sister Lu Shui asked me to call you to board together." Chapter 41. Junior apprentice sister An Yi, let me introduce you. This is senior apprentice sister Yong Gu Yun from the Clear Heart Academy. Senior apprentice sister Yong is helping the Clear Heart Academy to select students. Ning Cheng and an Yi came out. Lu Shui enthusiastically introduced an Yi to her. Beside her there were already several people chattering. Some of them were telling each other about the dangers they had experienced and the gains they had. Some of them were talking about the students they had chosen to represent the Ping Continent's Clear Heart Academy. Lu Buhong and the others were also like Lu Shui. They were also gathered together in a circle, and were happily discussing with each other. Ning Cheng knew that he was not in the same circle as them. The people who were gathered in this circle had the lowest cultivation level of qi gathering 6th level. Yong Gu Yun was already at the peak of qi gathering 8th level. In contrast, his chi-gathering 4th level cultivation, in this kind of place, was really not worth mentioning. The reason why an Yi was able to become friends with Lu Shui, he estimated that it was because of her spiritual roots. If an Yi was the same as him, with a hybrid support spiritual root, then presumably she would not be a person in this circle. An Yi did not speak much. After her master's death it was a big blow to her. But recently, after going through life and death with Ning Cheng, she had seen too many things, and a lot of things slowly opened up to her. Moreover, Lu Shui was a woman, so she had a lot of common words with her. Under the deliberate enthusiasm of Lu Shui, an Yi, who did not have much experience, was gradually integrated into this circle of friends. Ning Cheng did not interrupt, he was sizing up this huge airship-type artifact. When he was on Earth, he had not taken an airplane, but he knew how big an airplane was. Now in his view, even the largest airplane was not even a tenth of the size of this huge airship-type artifact. This was a real giant. For this huge airship to fly, he did not know if it was purely relying on spirit stones, or if it was something else. He did not believe that an airship without a power source would fly for no reason. It was not until they boarded the airship that an Yi had the opportunity to come out and call out to Ning Cheng. Who is he? Yong Guyun knew that an Yi's spiritual roots were better than hers, and also had a pure spiritual root, so she was very concerned about an Yi. Now that an Yi specifically called out to a cultivator at the chi-gathering 4th level, she asked in doubt. Lu Shui looked at an Yi's back and sighed. That is an Yi's cousin Ning Cheng. An Yi's relationship with him seems to be very unusual. Yong Guyun immediately asked, how is Ning Cheng's spiritual root? Lu Shui shook her head and said, I heard that it is a very poor multiline hybrid support spiritual root, and is far from an Yi. It's impossible. In the Mingat Sea area, how can a person with a hybrid support spiritual root be able to cultivate like this? Looking at his chi fluctuations, he should be at the chi gathering 4th level, right? Yong Guyun asked in surprise. Because he was lucky enough to obtain 5 chi gathering pills. Lo Bohong smiled as he walked over, but Ning Cheng is still a good person. He is very principled, but unfortunately, it is very likely that he will stop at the chi-gathering realm for the rest of his life. I estimate that it would be very difficult for him to reach the chi-gathering 7th level. If that is the case, then he really should not go to the Clear Heart Academy. At the Clear Heart Academy, an Yi will definitely be accepted as a disciple by an essence-building elder, and Ning Cheng will never be able to see her again. Yong Guyun looked at Ning Cheng and said. Ning Cheng did not know what other people would think of him, but he had come from Earth, as such he had seen a lot of different kinds of people. He could even predict that after he arrived at the Clear Heart Academy, he would not be welcomed. At this time an Yi came over and asked him to board the boat. He glanced at the rest of the students of the Clear Heart Academy who were staring at him, and said to an Yi, with your spiritual root, after you arrive at the Clear Heart Academy, you will definitely be guided by a famous teacher, and will become a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy. The opportunities for us to see each other in the future will be very few. I will find an opportunity to share some spirit stones with you. An Yi was surprised in her heart and quickly said, Big brother, I want to be with you. My master also said that, I want to be with you. Ning Cheng smiled bitterly and said, An Yi, your master said that because you did not have any friends at that time, and no one to take care of you, now that you have friends, you will certainly be heavily trained by the Clear Heart Academy. Even if your master was still alive, he would not want you to be with me. No, I want to be with you. An Yi stubbornly said. She did not have many reasons to refute Ning Cheng, she simply felt that only by being with Ning Cheng would she feel comfortable. Ning Cheng sighed and said, We have to leave the Mingat city. When we arrive at the Clear Heart Academy, you will have to work hard to cultivate. I believe that the Clear Heart Academy will have a lot of cultivation resources for you. Besides, your master said that your origin is not ordinary. If your cultivation level is not raised, there is no way to know your origin. More importantly, if you become a core disciple of the Academy, and are still together with me, maybe the Clear Heart Academy will think that I am delaying you. An Yi was silent. she was no longer that naive little nun who had just come out. She understood the meaning of Ning Cheng's words. Ning Cheng's spiritual root was poor. If she still wanted to be together with Ning Cheng, maybe the academy would kill Ning Cheng for delaying her. During this period of time, she had seen too many bloody things. I understand, I will remember Big Brother's words. Annie secretly made up her mind, she must work hard to cultivate, and when her cultivation level was high, she would then help Ning Cheng to find more spirit stones. Ning Cheng felt a bit sad in his heart. Now he could still see Annie, but after arriving at the Clear Heart Academy, perhaps it would be very difficult to see her. After I arrive at the academy, I will certainly have cultivation resources. You do not have to give those things to me. You will definitely need more resources. Annie had seen Ning Cheng cultivate. She knew that the amount of spirit stones that Ning Cheng needed to cultivate was too terrifying. Although Ning Cheng had obtained a few hundred spirit stones, but it was simply not enough for him to waste. Annie, get on the boat. Lu Shui called out from afar. Ning Cheng pulled Annie's hand and said, let's go, let's get on the boat. Miao Li who was standing at the side fiercely stared at Ning Cheng and Annie's back. He swore in his heart, even if he did not want the Wolf Palace, he would secretly follow them to the Mingyi country, and then look for an opportunity to kill Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng did not guess wrong. When he and Annie boarded the boat, Annie was arranged to stay in a better room. Ning Cheng asked the guide, and came to know that this boat was a partnership between the Clear Heart Academy and the Mingyi country. Ning Cheng did not occupy a room alone, but rather he shared a room with 5 other people that he did not know. These 5 people had the same characteristics. They were all very young. The oldest among them looked to be about 20 years old. What made Ning Cheng feel relieved was that his cultivation was finally not the worst in this room. There were 5 people in this room, and 2 of them were only at the Qi Gathering 2nd level. Excuse me, are you also students of the Clear Heart Academy? Ning Cheng came in and cupped his fists and asked. He felt strange in his heart, even if it was the Clear Heart Academy. A cultivator at the Qi Gathering 2nd level wanting to earn 2 low-grade spirit stones for the boat fare was not a simple matter, right? A youth who was the same as Ning Cheng, also at the Qi Gathering 4th level replied, of course not. Are you not selected by the Clear Heart Academy to participate in the Clear Heart Academy selection? Only by passing the Clear Heart Academy selection, can you be considered as a student of the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng suddenly came to understand. Before he had heard that this boat was a partnership between the Clear Heart Academy and the Mingyi country. It seems that this boat was circling the entire Ping continent, and picking out talented youths from all over the place to go to the Clear Heart Academy to take the test. Once they passed the test, they would be considered as a student of the Clear Heart Academy. Lo Buhong said that he only needed 2 spirit stones to board the boat. Maybe he even opened a back door for him and Annie. Ning Cheng quickly became familiar with these people. These people were indeed the same as what Ning Cheng had guessed. They were all selected by the Clear Heart Academy from all over the place, and were preparing to go to the Clear Heart Academy to participate in the selection test. The qualifications of the few people in his room were considered to be at the bottom, although they were at the bottom, but the worst one of them had better qualifications than Ning Cheng. At least they all had a main spiritual root. What if I fail the test? Ning Cheng suddenly thought that if they failed the entrance test, then the Clear Heart Academy would not accept them, and certainly would not have an airship to send them back. A skinny youth at the Qi Gathering 3rd level clenched his fists and said, I must pass. The youth at the Qi Gathering 4th level who first spoke to Ning Cheng said with disdain, whether you can pass or not is not up to you to decide. For people like us, if we can pass, then we will reach the sky in a single bound. If we cannot pass, then we can only stay in the Mingyi country to live. If a person wants to go back to his hometown from the Mingyi country, then that is simply courting death. Then he sighed and said, if you have a spiritual root like Yu Hongfeng, then you don't have to worry. Who is Yu Hongfeng? Ning Cheng asked. He is a student selected by the Yuan country. I heard that he is the only student selected with a pure gold spiritual root. Even the elders on the airship are very polite to him. His future is boundless. The youth at the Qi gathering 4th level replied with some envy. Ning Cheng was moved in his heart. If a pure spiritual root was so valued, then wouldn't it mean that an E would also be valued? At this time, the door to the room opened with a squeak. A youth wearing a blue robe came in carrying a wooden tray. On the wooden tray there were a few boxes similar to a lunch box. It's time to eat. The blue-robed youth said without any expression on his face. Ning Cheng knew that there were people who would deliver food to his door. It seems that the treatment was not bad. The other youths in the room were obviously already used to it, and quickly went to take their own lunch boxes. After Ning Cheng took his lunch box, he very politely asked the youth who delivered the food, "Excuse me, my friend, where do the disciples with pure spiritual roots live?" The youth who delivered the food looked at Ning Cheng with a surprised look, and then said, "They live in the core area, you can't go and see them, otherwise you will soon be driven off the ship." When the youth at the Qi gathering 4th level heard the 2 words, he asked with some doubt, "Isn't it just Yu Hongfeng who has a pure spiritual root?" "Of course not, I heard that this time in the Mingot Sea they found a student with a pure wood spiritual root." The youth immediately said. Ning Cheng knew that the other party should be talking about an E, so an E would certainly be taken care of. But in his heart, he was still a little worried, and asked, "If I want to see the students with pure spiritual roots, would it be troublesome?" "It would not be troublesome. Tomorrow evening there will be a welcoming party for the 2 students with pure spiritual roots. If you have the ability to get the tickets, then you can see them." The youth who delivered the food was obviously laughing at Ning Cheng for overestimating his capabilities. After saying that, he did not continue to talk with Ning Cheng, and turned away from the room. Chapter 42. The food delivery boy had just left, when the door was pushed open again. This time it was a middle-aged beautiful woman who came in. In addition to Ning Cheng, the other 5 youths who saw this middle-aged beautiful woman immediately stood up and bowed in salute, and at the same time respectfully called out, "Elder Lan." This middle-aged beautiful woman just nodded slightly, and looked at Ning Cheng and asked, "Are you called Ning Cheng?" Ning Cheng could feel the sternness in the eyes of this middle-aged beautiful woman, and did not understand why this elder was looking for him. "You come with me." This middle-aged beautiful woman did not wait for Ning Cheng to answer, and just turned around and walked out. Ning Cheng was somewhat confused as he followed this middle-aged beautiful woman out of the room, and after a few turns on the boat, they entered a luxurious room that was much bigger than the room that the 6 of them had stayed in before. This middle-aged beautiful woman sat down on the main seat in the room, but did not ask Ning Cheng to sit down, and just asked in a light voice, "According to an E, you and an E do not seem to have a relationship of cousin and cousin, but an Yi's master asked you to take care of an E before she passed away." Ning Cheng did not speak. He knew that with an Yi's simplicity, in front of these old cunning people, it was not unusual for her to ask these things. He just hoped that an E would not speak about his yellow light, and also not speak about the fact that he could absorb spirit stones. Once an E spoke about this, he could only wait for his death. Ning Cheng believed that an E should know what was good for her, this kind of thing that no one would beat around the bush. She should not take the initiative to speak about it. After this middle-aged beautiful woman finished, she did not wait for Ning Cheng to answer, and said again, "Whether you are an Yi's cousin or not, I hope that you will not get close to an E in the future. This would be good for you, and for an E. An Yi's future is limitless. You have a 3-line impure spiritual root, and your greatest achievement is only the Qi gathering realm. If you and an E are in contact, it will only affect an E." Ning Cheng said in a light voice, "I hope that an E will have a limitless future more than you, but before that, I want to confirm whether an E is really being taken care of by the Clear Heart Academy." Ning Cheng was sure that an E would be taken care of by the Clear Heart Academy, but the words of this middle-aged beautiful woman made him feel uncomfortable. The beautiful middle-aged woman smiled and said, "Sure." Saying that, she took out a wooden card and handed it to Ning Cheng and said, "Tomorrow evening there will be a welcome party for an E and Yu Hongfeng. You can use this wooden card to enter. When you see an E in the corner, you will understand what you should do." Ning Cheng took the wooden plaque, and silently turned around and walked out of the room. He was too lazy to even greet this middle-aged beautiful woman. A very pretty girl rushed in at this time, brushing past Ning Cheng who was coming out of the room. She also deliberately glanced at Ning Cheng, and at the same time gave out an sound. "Master, who is this person? So rude." The pretty girl stared at Ning Cheng's departing back, as she asked the beautiful middle-aged woman. The middle-aged beautiful woman frowned and said, "Although this person's aptitude is poor, but he is stubborn and extremely proud. Just now he did not answer me directly, and even when he left he did not even say anything. It seems that I cannot let him go to the Clear Heart Academy." After Ning Cheng returned to his room, a few of his companions in the room looked at him strangely, but no one came over to ask him, and no one came over to strike up a conversation. Ning Cheng was also not in a good mood. He closed his eyes and continued to deduce the array formations. A day passed by in a blink of an eye. The next evening when Ning Cheng arrived at the party, the hall where the party was being held was already filled with people. It was very lively and noisy. Ning Cheng came from Earth, although he had not participated in any banquets or parties, but he had seen countless of them on TV. This was the first time that Ning Cheng had participated in this kind of party. There were no modern facilities here, but Ning Cheng was sure that the luxury of this party on the ship was definitely not worse than any party on Earth. Rows of array lights lit up the entire party, making it look like a fairyland. There were some girls wearing colorful butterfly-like dresses holding a variety of food and wine interspersed in every corner. The soft music was something that Ning Cheng had never heard before. It gave people a very comfortable feeling of enjoyment. Among the cultivators who participated in this party, none of them were lower than Qi Gathering 5th level, and there were many of them that Ning Cheng could not see through their cultivation. Lu Buhong and the others also came in with a smile on their faces, and greeted some of the people that Ning Cheng could not see through their cultivation. In addition to Lu Buhong and the others, Ning Cheng almost did not recognize the rest of them. At this time, a burst of sweet music sounded, and under the dim lights, Ning Cheng saw an Yi. At this time, an Yi was like a princess. The robe that she was wearing had long since disappeared, and was replaced by a set of light yellow robes. Although her head was still wrapped in a white scarf, but it showed a kind of fairy-like aura. It made her already extremely beautiful face look even more refined like a fairy. Annie walked into the hall with a smile on her face. Her eyes were filled with happiness. Obviously, Annie who had never been exposed to this kind of scene was very adaptable, at least in her eyes. There was no hesitation or uneasiness. Lu Xue and Yong Gu Yun were both accompanying Annie, showing that Annie's status was higher than them. With Annie's appearance, a burst of warm applause sounded. Following behind Annie was a youth with a jade-like face. His eyes had a trace of pride, and he was walking with full confidence. Ning Cheng did not need to ask, he could guess that this person should be the pure gold spiritual root Yu Hongfeng. Annie stood on the stage to accept the welcome of the crowd, while her eyes were also looking around. Lu Xue whispered in Annie's ear, "Junior apprentice sister Annie, these people are the elite disciples and teachers of the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng will not come here." Annie nodded, and retracted her gaze. Her eyes had a trace of sadness. "In fact, you should not have boarded the airship." An indifferent voice sounded in Ning Cheng's ear. Ning Cheng suddenly turned around, and saw a familiar girl. This girl was the one he saw yesterday when he went to the middle-aged beautiful woman's room. At that time, he was just coming out of the middle-aged beautiful woman's room, when this girl rushed in. Although it was just a passing, Ning Cheng still remembered it very clearly. "At least I know that my cousin is doing well, and feel relieved," Ning Cheng said with a light smile, and turned around to leave. If he had not boarded the airship, he would have already died in the Mingot city. The girl suddenly said, "I think that when the airship stops at the next stop, it would be best for you to get off." "Believe me, that's right." After the girl said such an inexplicable sentence, she turned around and walked towards the bustling crowd in the middle of the party hall. Ning Cheng frowned. He did not have a good feeling about this. He was just about to pick up the glass of wine on the table next to him to take a sip, when he heard a familiar voice again. you have already seen your cousin Yi, she is doing very well, so you do not have to worry about her. Thank you senior, I really do not have to worry about her, this junior will take his leave. Ning Cheng gave up on picking up the glass of wine and said, he turned around, and found that the person who was talking to him was the middle-aged beautiful woman who had given him the wooden plaque yesterday, but at this moment she did not have even half a bit of expression on her face. The middle-aged beautiful woman said indifferently, letting you come here, one is because you are Yi's cousin, and the other is because of your good intentions. I am looking for you for something else, you can come with me. The bad feeling in Ning Cheng's heart was getting more and more intense, but he did not have any leeway to resist, and could only follow the middle-aged beautiful woman out of the party hall. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, a burst of breeze blew past. Ning Cheng discovered that he was standing on the deck of the airship. Below the airship was an endless expanse of white clouds and blue sky. The breeze had passed through the airship's shielding array formation, and blew in. It can be imagined, if there was no such shielding array formation, as long as he stood in this place, he would immediately be thrown off by the high-speed airship. Looking at the endless white clouds and blue sky under his feet, Ning Cheng felt a little dizzy. At this time he completely understood why this middle-aged beautiful woman had called him here. Do you want me to jump from here? Ning Cheng's tone became cold. For a Qi-gathering 4th-level cultivator to jump from such a high altitude, other than death, there was obviously no other way. The middle-aged beautiful woman nodded and said, that's right, you have to jump from here, you have no choice. Why? I have already agreed not to look for Yi. Ning Cheng clenched his fists. He knew that this was a place where people's lives were treated as grass, but this was just too outrageous. Just because he knew Yi, and Yi had a pure spiritual root, they wanted to kill him. How could there be such a reason in this world? It seemed that as long as he was alive, Yi would not be able to cultivate in peace. For the sake of Yi's future, I have the responsibility to help Yi cut off her worldly karma. You do not have to think about resisting, I can tell you, I am the Clear Heart Academy's true condensation 8th level elder Lan Yin. You are just a Qi-gathering 4th level cultivator, I do not need to move, I can let you jump from here. You are Yi's cousin, I do not want to force you, you can jump by yourself. The middle-aged beautiful woman's tone was expressionless. Ha ha. Ning Cheng laughed, you are a whore, but you still want to set up a chastity, you do not want to force me, I ba. You are courting death. Lan Yin, who was originally very calm, after listening to Ning Cheng's words, immediately overflowed with a murderous aura. Ning Cheng knew that he did not have the ability to resist. He walked to the edge of the ship and stared at Lan Yin and said, Lan Yin, I do not need you to do anything, I will choose myself. One day, you will regret what you did today, you whore. Lan Yin heard Ning Cheng call her a whore again, and immediately trembled with anger. She did not wait for Ning Cheng to start. Ning Cheng had already taken the initiative to jump from the edge of the ship. He knew that in front of Lan Yin, other than jumping, there was no other way. The airship's speed was very fast. When Ning Cheng jumped, the airship was already far away. Lan Yin was still unable to calm the anger in her heart. She did not think that a trivial Qi-gathering 4th level little thing would dare to humiliate her like this. If she could fly, she would definitely fly out of the cabin, and then catch Ning Cheng, and tear him inch by inch. Chapter 43. The reason why Ning Cheng dared to jump down, was because he could release his spiritual sense. But when he really fell from the airship, the strong inertia of the fall, made his heart sink. He barely cast the imperial wind technique, but under this kind of high altitude and inertia of the fall, he could only maintain the imperial wind technique for a short period of time. Not to mention that the time he could persist was very short. The powerful force falling from the sky, made him use the imperial wind technique to consume a terrifying amount of qi. If he did not think of a way, he would definitely fall to his death in this place. Ning Cheng directly threw out the flying sword, and forcibly used his spiritual sense to control the flying sword. He was unable to make the flying sword wider, but he was barely able to make the flying sword fall under his feet. Whoosh whoosh. Amidst the air-piercing sound, the flying sword controlled by his spiritual force finally slowed down his speed. The huge consumption of spiritual sense and chi made Ning Cheng understand, he could at most persist for a few breaths, and after a few breaths, he would not be able to safely land on the ground. Ning Cheng, without hesitation, took out a robe from his storage bag, and then tied the sleeves of the robe, and then grabbed a few corners of the robe in his hands, and then slightly relaxed his spiritual sense. After Dan Ning Cheng's spiritual sense relaxed, the flying sword under his feet was immediately unable to support his weight, his whole body fell even faster. At this time the robe swelled up, forming a simple parachute, offsetting more than half of Ning Cheng's weight. After the weight was reduced, Ning Cheng once again forcibly controlled the flying sword. His spiritual sense finally did not need to consume so much. After a dozen breaths, Ning Cheng brought along a strong gust of wind, as he rushed into a dense forest. Gotcha! A few crisp sounds emerged, as several branches were directly broken by Ning Cheng. Bang! Ning Cheng landed on the ground, and immediately kicked out a bathtub-sized mud pit. Ning Cheng, who was completely exhausted, slowly breathed a sigh of relief. He finally escaped with his life. Apart from the consumption of his spiritual sense and chi, he only had a few simple scratches on his body. To him, this was already the best outcome. But he was surrounded by trees, and as he landed in the middle of the forest, he could only see a few rays of light coming from the top. Two screams of "Yong Yong" came straight down from the sky. Ning Cheng only saw a black shadow rushing towards him like a lightning bolt. Ning Cheng was startled in his heart and subconsciously dodged to the side. The black shadow had already flown past his shoulder like a lightning bolt. Ning Cheng felt a pain in his shoulder. Under the mottled light, his shoulder was unexpectedly scratched off. Ning Cheng did not expect that he would not be injured from falling from a height of 10,000 meters, but would be scratched by a bird. Another beast roar came. Ning Cheng's heart tightened. He knew that the place was definitely not a good. He quickly took out a spirit stone and held it in his hand. While seizing the time to restore his chi, he also grabbed the flying sword in his hand. When he had only recovered half of his true chi, the black shadow that had just scratched off a piece of skin on his shoulder flew down from the sky again. Ning Cheng was already prepared this time, as he raised the flying sword in his hand, causing a bloody mist to flash out. With a pata sound, a giant bird that looked somewhat like an owl fell to the ground. This was a Class 1 monstrous beast. Ning Cheng immediately recognized it. There were monarch beasts in this place. It was definitely not a good place. At this time in the forest, in addition to the roars of the beasts, there were also bursts of rustling sounds approaching. Ning Cheng jumped up, and quickly left the place. He had vaguely guessed that this place should be inside the Dawn Forest. The airship certainly would not pass over the Dawn Forest. It should be flying along the edge of the Dawn Forest, but because of the inertia when he fell, he deviated into the Dawn Forest. At this time, he had to leave the Dawn Forest as soon as possible, otherwise even an essence-building cultivator would not dare to go through this place alone. If he stayed here it would only bode ill rather than well. Ning Cheng's injuries were not heavy, plus he used a spirit stone to restore his chi. In less than half an hour, his chi was completely restored, even his spiritual sense was almost restored. But Ning Cheng knew that he was lost. He was surrounded by towering trees on all sides. Even if the trees were sparse, there were still shrubs. There was simply no way out. Running around in this forest for a few hours, in addition to a variety of wild beasts, there were only a variety of snakes, insects, rats and ants. Even Class 1 monarch beasts, Ning Cheng had encountered them a few times. But because he was extremely clever, he did not confront these monarch beasts head-on. Half a day passed by. There was no longer any sunlight in the forest, and it was replaced by the pale-colored moonlight. Ning Cheng knew that he could not continue like this. He had to find a safe place to rest, and then formulate a strategy. Gotcha! A crisp sound came from under his feet. Ning Cheng's foot slipped. He felt that he had stepped on a round stone. Ning Cheng subconsciously jumped to the side, and found that under his feet was a white skull. then Ning Cheng saw the bones of a hand and a foot next to the skull. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to bend down to examine the origin of this skull, a fishy smell came from behind. Ning Cheng did not think, he directly moved to the side, and simultaneously sprang forward more than 10 meters. A roar came from behind Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng could even feel the breath of the monarch beast. This was definitely a monarch beast that was much stronger than him. The flying sword in Ning Cheng's hands shot out a sword light, and his whole body floated away using the imperial wind technique. Falling from a height of 10,000 meters, the only improvement he had made was that his imperial wind technique had increased by a large margin. Ding dang, a crisp sound rang out. Ning Cheng's flying sword light was directly blocked by a wind edge. It was not until this time that Ning Cheng calmed down his mind. He looked back and saw a monarch beast the size of a calf. This monarch beast's body was pitch black, but its eyes were emitting a red light, just like two huge lanterns. Ning Cheng did not have much contact with monarch beasts. He did not know what kind of monarch beast this was, but he was sure that this monarch beast's cultivation level was higher than his own. It was at least a Class 1 late-stage monarch beast. If he attacked it head-on, he would definitely not be its opponent. Ning Cheng carefully took a step back. He could see a sparkling light in the distance. It was obvious that there was a forest lake there. This red-eyed monarch beast seemed to know that Ning Cheng was not easy to deal with, and after confronting Ning Cheng for a few breaths, it suddenly pounced on him. At the same time, it spat out two wind edges from its mouth. These two wind edges formed a cross shape. It could be seen that this monarch beast was extremely experienced in dealing with its enemies. Ning Cheng wanted to retreat to the edge of the forest lake, but he also knew that if he did not repel this monarch beast, then even if he retreated to the edge of the forest lake, he would not be able to live in peace. Facing the two wind edges from the monarch beast, Ning Cheng once again chopped out with his flying sword. This time he also formed two sword lights. Ding ding, the monarch beast's wind edges were like a real substance, as they collided with Ning Cheng's sword lights, giving out a crisp sound. The powerful shockwave caused Ning Cheng's chest to feel suffocated. The monarch beast was blocked by Ning Cheng's sword lights, which made it even more angry. Not waiting for it to continue to spit out the wind edges, Ning Cheng took the initiative to send out 4 flame edges. The 4 flame edges were very dense, and because of the huge size of the monarch beast, it was not easy for it to dodge, and was hit by the 4 wind edges. Puff puff puff. A series of muffled sounds could be heard, as the 4 flame edges left 4 traces on the body of the monarch beast. Seeing these 4 traces, Ning Cheng's heart sank. When the 4 flame edges hit the monarch beast's body, it only gave out some muffled sounds, and only left behind some traces, but did not cause even half a bit of damage to the monarch beast. The defensive power of this monarch beast was simply too strong. The red-eyed monarch beast once again roared, and just when it was about to continue to rush towards Ning Cheng, an even more exciting roar came from a distance. This red-eyed monarch beast pricked up its ears to listen to the roar coming from a distance, and unexpectedly gave up its fight with Ning Cheng, as it turned around and quickly ran back, and in a twinkling of an eye disappeared into the vast woods. Ning Cheng slowly sighed. This place really was not a good place. He had to find a place to improve his strength first, otherwise he would not be able to come out of this place, and perhaps he would be killed by the monarch beasts in this place. Ning Cheng put away his flying sword, as he sped up and rushed towards the sparkling forest lake that he had seen before. The forest lake was surrounded by an open area, as such he could easily arrange a low-level defensive array formation. Even if a high-level monarch beast came, he would have enough time to escape. The forest lake was not far from Ning Cheng, and in just a few dozen breaths, Ning Cheng had already arrived at the edge of the forest lake. This lake was a few dozen feet in size. If such a lake was placed outside, it would appear to be huge. But in this towering forest, it did not appear to be huge at all. Ning Cheng walked around the lake for a few dozen feet, but did not find a good place to take shelter. Just when he wanted to see if there was a good place around the lake that he could hide in, the lake suddenly sprayed out a few feet high spray of water. Ning Cheng was startled, and quickly retreated a few meters away. But in this lake, other than the spray of water, there was nothing else unusual. Chapter 44. The water column sprayed out for at most 10 breaths of time, before it once again fell back into the lake. The whole lake also became the same as before. If not for the ripples on the surface of the lake, Ning Cheng might have thought that he was seeing things. At the same time, Ning Cheng could clearly feel that the water column that sprayed out was filled with rich spiritual qi. It was much more abundant than the surrounding spiritual qi. After Ning Cheng knew that this might be the Dawn Forest, he did not dare to be reckless. No matter what was at the bottom of the lake, it was not something that he could touch with his current cultivation level. If his cultivation level was higher, he might have gone to the bottom of the lake to see the situation, but now he did not want to touch this place. Retreating from the lake, Ning Cheng found a giant tree with a diameter of nearly 15 meters. He intended to temporarily cultivate in the heart of this giant tree. Trees with a diameter of more than 10 meters were not many on Earth, but here they were everywhere. The tree that Ning Cheng found was not even the thickest, but because he was hiding in this tree to cultivate, he could directly see the movements in the lake. Ning Cheng thought that he was going to make a tree nest for himself, but after he climbed to the top of the tree, he found out that there was already a huge cave in the heart of the tree. There was a fishy smell in the cave. He did not know what kind of monstrous beast had left it behind. Looking at the inside of the tree hole, it seemed that no monstrous beast had entered this tree hole for many years. Ning Cheng cleaned the tree hole, and arranged a concealment array formation and a defensive array formation on top of the tree. He did not dare to arrange the array formation on the edge of the lake. His level of array formations was too low, although he could barely understand a level 2 array formation. But with his standard of refining array flags, he could only arrange a few level 1 array formations. Sitting in the tree hole, Ning Cheng arranged a level 1 concealment array formation. Only then did he feel relieved. After arranging a few array formations, Ning Cheng understood that no matter where he was, the more he understood, the more advantageous it would be for him. If he did not know how to arrange array formations, then he could only be the same as before, and could only passively pray that others would not find him. Now that he had arranged an array formation, even if a monstrous beast attacked him, he would be aware of it before it happened. Although he was sitting in the tree hole, all the changes in the lake were in Ning Cheng's eyes, which allowed him to cultivate with peace of mind, and also to check the changes in the lake at any time. Ning Cheng took out more than 200 spirit stones. He intended to advance his cultivation to the late stages of the qi-gathering realm. Along with Ning Cheng's cultivation, he once again forgot everything. As he turned the spirit stones into powder, the spiritual qi within the spirit stones combined with the mysterious yellow aura constantly scoured his body. Ning Cheng could even vaguely feel that while his cultivation was improving, the qualifications of his spiritual roots were also improving. Even if he had the spiritual qi to supplement him, Ning Cheng still needed to eat something from time to time. He hadn't cultivated to the point where he could rely on spiritual energy to abstain from eating. Time passed day by day. When the Zhen qi in his body had once again gathered to a certain degree, a subtle sound rang out in his body, followed by a powerful Zhen qi rushing through the meridians of his body. Some of the impurities in his body were expelled from his skin. A strong qi flow was transferred to Ning Cheng. He knew that he had advanced to the qi-gathering 5th level. Ning Cheng sighed, and opened his eyes, only to find that the spirit stones that he had taken out had all been used up. Amazing! Ning Cheng said to himself, from the qi-gathering 4th level to the qi-gathering 5th level, he had used up more than 200 spirit stones. Perhaps only someone with the lowest qualifications like him would be able to do so. Not only that, but this time from the qi-gathering 4th level to the qi-gathering 5th level, he had used up a month's time. If it continued like this, then the remaining spirit stones would definitely not be able to support him to cultivate to the qi-gathering 7th level. Ning Cheng took out the 2 jade pieces that Fang Jiyan had given him. He had advanced from the qi-gathering 4th level to the qi-gathering 5th level. His spiritual sense had more than doubled. Presumably he should be able to see the contents of the jade pieces. He did not have many spirit stones, it would be better to specialize in the study of magical techniques. This time Ning Cheng's spiritual sense did not let him down, his spiritual sense swept through the first jade piece, and was able to clearly understand the contents of the jade piece, 36 Profound Ice Spear Technique. After understanding the contents of the jade piece, Ning Cheng almost broke out into curses. That bastard Fong Jian knew that he only had a flying sword, but still gave him a spear technique. Although it was a profound grade cultivation method, but what use would it have for him? He could not even think about obtaining a spear-type artifact, not to mention this spear technique was not suitable for his spiritual roots. It was not easy for him to obtain an advanced-level magical technique, but he could not cultivate it. Although Ning Cheng was very depressed, he still looked at the 36 Profound Ice Spear Technique. It would have been better if he did not look at it, but the more he looked at it, the more depressed he became. After cultivating the 36 Profound Ice Spear Technique to the end, it can form 36 Profound Ice Spear Shadows. These 36 Spear Shadows can form a Profound Ice Spear Net, and can also form a Profound Ice Spear Array. Under the cover of these 36 Spear Shadows, how could an ordinary opponent have the opportunity to escape? This was a big killing weapon. This thing was good, but he could not cultivate it. Ning Cheng sighed, he put the jade piece aside, and once again took out another jade piece for the magical technique. The few words on the jade piece for the magical technique made Ning Cheng even more angry. 7 Pleiades Ice Needle. This was also a profound grade magical technique, but it was an ice-type magical technique. Ning Cheng was aware of his own support spiritual roots. He had 3 support spiritual roots, fire, wood, and earth. Now Ning Cheng had a certain understanding of spiritual roots. The ice spiritual roots were classified as a variant spiritual root, and cultivators with this kind of spiritual root would be heavily cultivated. Cultivation methods with ice spiritual roots, only cultivators with ice spiritual roots and water spiritual roots would be able to cultivate the greatest effect. For cultivators with other spiritual roots to cultivate it, the effect would be greatly reduced. This 7 Pleiades Ice Needle was even more insidious, but it required an ice needle artifact that was even finer than a cow's hair. If cultivated to the extreme, this ice needle artifact would be able to evade one's spiritual consciousness. This kind of thing to sneak attack others, was simply impossible to guard against. Such a vicious magical technique, but I like it. Ning Cheng said to himself, his heart was even more depressed. What was the use of liking it? Not to mention that he did not have an ice spiritual root. Even if he did have an ice spiritual root, and could cultivate the 7 Pleiades Ice Needle artifact, he did not have an ice needle artifact. Ning Cheng rubbed his head in distress. He knew that with his chi-gathering realm cultivation, he was able to use his spiritual sense, which was already very amazing, but even if he did not have his own magical techniques, compared to others, he was still far behind. The magical techniques that he had mastered, other than the wind edge, there was also the fireball. These were the basic magical techniques that had nothing to do with spiritual roots, and anyone could cultivate them. In addition to this, he had derived the fire edge technique. As for his powerful sword light, it was entirely because of the flying sword that he was able to use. If he met an opponent who also had an artifact, then his sword light would not even be worth mentioning. Ning Cheng was somewhat disappointed as he put away the magical technique jade strip, and came out of the tree hole. He had been cultivating in the tree hole for a month, and was already bored to the point of panicking. Once again standing at the edge of the lake, Ning Cheng was ready to cast a few clear water techniques to wash himself, when suddenly he saw a several feet high column of water rushing out from the center of the lake. This time the water column was exactly the same as the one he had seen a month ago. It was still filled with a rich spiritual chi. The only difference was that this time the water column seemed to be a bit higher. After 10 breaths, the water column once again fell down, and the center of the lake once again returned to its tranquil state. Ning Cheng calculated for a moment. He soon found that the last time the water column appeared and today's water column appeared was exactly a month apart. With such a regular water column, and with such a rich spiritual chi, Ning Cheng really wanted to go into the center of the lake to have a look. but thinking that he did not have a magical technique, he immediately became discouraged. The 36 profound ice spears and the 7 Pleiades ice needle sounded very powerful, but how could he learn it? Without a spear, could he not use a sword? This jade strip had the 36 profound ice spears, and he himself could cultivate the 36 profound ice swords. Although his spiritual root was not an ice spiritual root, but he had the mysterious yellow bead, who said that he could not cultivate it. Ning Qing thought until here, and once again became excited. He directly took out his flying sword. Since he did not have a spear, then he would practice with a sword. Perhaps after he finished practicing the 36 profound ice spears, this magical technique would be renamed to 36 profound ice swords. Ning Cheng's perception and memory were unparalleled. What he was worried about was whether or not his spiritual root would be able to cultivate the 36 profound ice spears. When he brought out his flying sword, and began to cultivate the 36 profound ice spears magical technique, he immediately knew that he had been thinking too much. The qi that was flowing everywhere, under the mnemonic chant of the 36 profound ice spears magical technique, unexpectedly turned into the profound ice true qi without any delay, and this profound ice true qi and his spiritual sense also combined together without any delay, turning his flying sword into a strange sword light. The only thing he needed to worry about was not that his spiritual root was not an ice spiritual root, but how long could his spiritual sense support him in controlling the profound ice sword light. Pa! A sound rang out. Because his spiritual sense was not enough, Ning Cheng's flying sword fell to the ground. Ning Cheng was not surprised, instead he was happy, and laughed and said, "I really have outstanding qualifications, even an ice-type magical technique can be mastered so easily." Although he was very excited, and was praising himself, Ning Cheng knew that the reason he could cultivate the 36 profound ice spears magical technique had nothing to do with his qualifications, but was definitely related to the mysterious yellow bead. He even suspected that with the help of the mysterious yellow origin, he had gained an ice spiritual root, but he had not tested it yet, because he was not sure. Only when he had the opportunity in the future, would he test it out with his artifact, to see if he really had an ice spiritual root or not. With the opportunity to cultivate the magical technique, Ning Cheng patiently controlled the flying sword, and again cast the 36 profound ice spears magical technique that he had modified. In the beginning, he could only cast one sword light, but under the constant revision of the 36 profound ice spears magical technique in his mind, after 3 days, he was able to cast 3 profound ice sword lights. 5 days later, Ning Cheng was able to cast 5 profound ice sword lights. But Ning Cheng was also aware that with his current cultivation, 5 profound ice sword lights was his limit. If he had not shot out his flying sword, he could have released 2 more sword lights. But if he did not shoot the flying sword, then the power of the sword lights would be limited. From this, it could be seen that spiritual sense was a good thing. Since he could cultivate the 36 profound ice spears magical technique, Ning Cheng certainly would not let go of the 7 Pleiades ice needle technique. He did not have a needle-type artifact, so he could only use the flying sword as a replacement. Even if he used the flying sword as a replacement for the flying needle, Ning Cheng was still constantly modifying the 7 Pleiades ice needle technique. On the 10th day, Ning Cheng was able to skillfully control the flying sword for a sneak attack. But the size of the flying sword was too big, it was completely unable to play the role of a sneak attack. Chapter 45. The place where Ning Cheng was cultivating was incomparably quiet. Other than the red-eyed monstrous beast that had chased after Ning Cheng did not encounter any other monstrous beasts. Another month passed by. Ning Cheng had already combined the 36 profound ice spear technique and the 7 Pleiades ice needle technique together. He first used the profound ice sword light, and then used the other curved blade type artifact as the 7 Pleiades ice needle, and hid it within the profound ice sword light for a sneak attack. Unfortunately, he did not have the real 7 Pleiades ice needle. If he had the real 7 Pleiades ice needle, even if he was at the great perfection of the Qi-gathering realm, he would dare to fight. That scimitar-type artifact was snatched from Taoist Pu's hands. but using it as a 7 Pleiades ice needle was a far cry from it. Even so, Ning Qing believed that with his current strength, with the combination of the 36 profound ice swords and the 7 Pleiades ice needle, an ordinary qi-gathering cultivator would not be able to resist. On this day, Ning Qing was still thinking about whether or not to melt the curved blade in his hands, and then refine it into a fine needle, when he suddenly heard a light voice coming from the wind. "Someone's coming." Ning Qing immediately affirmed that he had not heard it wrong, and was sure that someone was coming. This place was in the depths of the Dawn Forest. Ordinary people would absolutely not come to this place, even if it was an essence-building cultivator. They would not dare to walk through the Dawn Forest alone, so what kind of person would dare to come here? The reason why he hid here and didn't dare to leave was because his strength was too low and he didn't dare to run around. Ning Qing was the first to hide in the tree hole. Before he could determine whether this person was an enemy or a friend, he did not want others to know that he was in this place. Ning Qing did not hide for long, when a burst of light and steady footsteps arrived, causing Ning Qing to become even more careful. Even though there were sounds of footsteps, they were extremely steady and carried with them a dignified aura. Clearly, the cultivation of the person who came was not low. At the very least, it was higher than his. After a dozen breaths, 2 men and a woman carefully walked over and appeared at the lakeside. "Qishui, is this the lake you mentioned?" The one who spoke was the man walking at the back. His head was very small, but he was very thick, which made him look very uncoordinated. Hearing this person's question, the man with the long goatee in the front stopped, pointed to the lake in front of them and said, "That's right, Fei Chen, this is the Dawn Forest's eternal clear lake. Only a few people know about this place. The reason why I know about this place, is because I have the ability to cross through the Dawn Forest. The last time I passed by this place, I found out by chance." When Ning Qing heard this, he was extremely shocked in his heart. He knew that the Dawn Forest was extremely dangerous. Even if it was Ji Luo Fei's aunt, she would not dare to say that she would be able to pass through the Dawn Forest. This goateed man actually had such ability. Cross the Dawn Forest. At this time Ning Qing could vaguely see the cultivation of this person. He should also be a cultivator in the true condensation realm. Presumably, the man and woman with him, were also cultivators of the true condensation realm. A cultivator of the true condensation realm, although his cultivation was good, but how could he say that he could cross the Dawn Forest? Unless he had a safe route map of the Dawn Forest. One had to know that after passing through the Dawn Forest, one would be able to reach the Yuan continent. Only with a safe route map, would one be able to cross the Dawn Forest and reach the Yuan continent. Otherwise, in the Dawn Forest, they would definitely end up being killed by the monstrous beasts. Good, if what Qi Shui said is true, and that there really is such a thing here, then after we obtain it, we can go through the Dawn Forest together and go to the Yuan continent. The small-headed man said with certainty. "I also agree." The female cultivator in the middle also expressed her opinion. As the 3 of them spoke till now, Ning Qing only knew that the 3 of them had come for something in the lake. But he did not know what exactly it was. At this time Ning Qing did not dare to make any movements. Any one of these 3 people could instantly kill him. Once he was discovered by them, then he would only be courting death. "I have already told you, that the poison mist that this thing spits out is incomparably poisonous, so we will first take the detoxification pill, and then provoke it to come up. Once it is provoked to come out, Fei Chen and I will attack it. Younger sister Fan Hong will hide behind us. Once we lure it out of the lake, the 3 of us will immediately kill it. As long as we do not let it return to the lake, the 3 of us will definitely be able to kill it." After the man with the goatee called Qi Shui finished, he took out 3 pure white pills. He first took one of the pills, and handed the other 2 to the other 2 true condensation cultivators. At the same time, his eyes were staring at the center of the lake. The other 2 true condensation cultivators each grabbed a pill and swallowed it. The female cultivator who had swallowed the pill retreated a few steps, and hid behind a giant tree. "Fei Chen, I will provoke it to come out of the lake, you will hide at the edge of the lake, and when it chases me, you will block its path." After the goatee called Qi Shui finished, he directly took out a fist-sized black bead, and then with a flick of his hand, this bead was like a cannonball, as it was thrown into the lake by him. After a few breaths, a huge muffled explosion sound rose from the bottom of the lake. The huge lake surface was directly blasted apart by this explosion. At this moment, one could even see that the center of the lake had formed a whirlpool-shaped hole. Aoo! A roar resounded. Almost at the same time, a 50 or 60 feet long dark red monstrous beast rushed out of the whirlpool. Ning Cheng's heart almost shrank. This turned out to be a flood dragon. On Earth, this was a legendary thing, but he actually saw it today. This flood dragon's entire body was covered with dark red scales. From top to bottom it was one. It looked extremely beautiful, and its 4 giant claws looked like 4 iron rakes. What surprised Ning Cheng the most, was that this flood dragon unexpectedly only had a single horn. The flood dragon's horn was snow white, and was nearly a meter long. It was a one-horned flood dragon. After this one-horned flood dragon came up, it just swept its huge tail, and the several dozen feet radius of the clear water lake immediately kicked up a huge wave. A large amount of lake water rushed up to the shore, and all the water plants on the shore fell to the ground. Ning Cheng could clearly feel the formidable aura coming from it. This was definitely a monstrous beast in the essence-building realm, or even beyond the essence-building realm. A monstrous beast that surpassed the essence-building realm, was a Class 4 monstrous beast. Initially when he was in the Tsangqin 2-star Academy, he had seen Wen Ji Lu's imposing manner, and had also seen Ji Luo Fei's aunt's imposing manner. But no matter which one of them, their imposing manner was far inferior to this one-horned flood dragon. These 3 people with trivial true condensation cultivations dared to challenge this one-horned flood dragon. It was simply courting death. No matter how Ning Cheng thought about it, he could not figure out why these 3 people would come here to court death. Qi Shui, what's going on? This is not a Class 2 red poison devouring python, this is a Class 4 one-horned flood dragon. How could you make such a big mistake? That small-headed true condensation cultivator also discovered the dreadfulness of this one-horned flood dragon, and immediately cried out in horror, while simultaneously turning around to escape. What a joke, they were just a few true condensation cultivators, wanting to kill a Class 4 monstrous beast. If this was not courting death, then what was? Ning Cheng's entire body was covered in cold sweat. He did not think that in the place where he cultivated, there would unexpectedly be a Class 4 monstrous beast. He did not know if this one-horned flood dragon disdained to bother with him, or if it did not discover him. But Ning Cheng was sure that the probability of him not discovering him was 0. How could such a monstrous beast not discover him? It's true, the last time I saw it was definitely not this one-horned flood dragon. It should be that this one-horned flood dragon killed the red poison devouring python, and then occupied the spiritual essence at the bottom of the lake. The long-bearded man spoke in a panic. Ning Cheng, who was watching from the side, felt that this long-bearded man did not seem to be very panicked. This kind of feeling made him feel very strange. Since Ning Cheng could feel this, then the small-headed true condensation cultivator called Fei Chen obviously could also feel it. Not waiting for him to react, the long-bearded man had already retreated behind him, while simultaneously kicking the small-headed true condensation cultivator called Fei Chen in the back. The small-headed true condensation cultivator originally wanted to quickly retreat, but when he was kicked by the short-headed true condensation cultivator, he instead rushed forward, and fell right into the open mouth of the one-horned flood dragon. The one-horned flood dragon was obviously not polite towards the food that was delivered to its mouth, and directly swallowed the small-headed true condensation cultivator called Fei Chen. The long-bearded man once again quickly retreated. After the one-horned flood dragon swallowed the man called Fei Chen, he arrived at the side of another female cultivator. At this time this female cultivator already knew that she and the other person had been deceived by the long-bearded man. At the same time as the long-bearded man came over, she immediately brought out a flying sword. But just as she brought out her flying sword, it fell down powerlessly. Ma Chi Shui, you are really vicious, we are like brothers and sisters, yet you actually tried to poison me and Fei Chen. This female cultivator spoke these words, as she was kicked by the long-bearded man, while simultaneously flying towards the one-horned flood dragon that was opening its mouth. The one-horned flood dragon did not hesitate for even half a moment. After swallowing the female cultivator, it issued an even more explosive roar, and rushed towards the long-bearded man. The next moment, several blue-colored water lights were spat out by the one-horned flood dragon. At this time the long-bearded man unexpectedly brought out a round shield, apparently wanting to block the water lights spat out by the flood dragon. Pang pang. After a series of sounds, the long-bearded man's round shield was directly smashed into pieces by the water lights spat out by the one-horned flood dragon. At the same time that the long-bearded man's round shield was smashed into pieces, the long-bearded man was also sent flying by the formidable power of the water lights, directly crashing into a giant tree, as he crazily spurted out several mouthfuls of blood. Just this one attack made the long-bearded man's face turn incomparably pale. It was obvious that he did not think that this one-horned flood dragon would be so powerful. At this time, he unexpectedly did not choose to escape, but rather brought out a four-edged sword-type artifact. It seems that he still wanted to fight against the flood dragon. At this time, the flood dragon suddenly gave out a loud roar, and unexpectedly threw away the long-bearded man, as it rolled on the ground incessantly. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the flood dragon had already rolled on the ground, forming a huge pit. Some of the trees that were close to the flood dragon were completely broken by the formidable power of the flood dragon, and the continuous cracking sounds could be heard. Ning Qing suddenly came to understand, and in his heart he secretly sighed that this guy called Ma Chi Shui was really insidious. This guy had brought two of his companions with him, and had given each of them a detoxification pill. In fact, this detoxification pill was an extremely powerful and terrifying poison. The two cultivators who had eaten the detoxification pill were now swallowed by the one-horned flood dragon. As such, the toxicity was completely transferred to the one-horned flood dragon. At this time the one-horned flood dragon also understood its own situation. While it was rolling on the ground, it was trying to escape to the clear water lake. It seems that it wanted to enter the lake to detoxify the poison. The long-bearded man also understood that this was a very critical time. He did not care about his own injuries, and directly brought out the four-edged sword-type artifact in his hands, and rushed towards the one-horned flood dragon. Chapter 46. This attack from the goat-bearded man had almost gathered all of the true essence in his body, causing the four-edged swords to shine with a sword light that was nearly 10 feet long. This sword light was completely different from the sword light that Ning Qing had brought out before. The sword light that Ning Qing had brought out with his flying sword before, although it looked longer, but compared to this substantial sword light, it was a far cry. The four-edged sword light directly stabbed into the one-horned flood dragon's neck, and as the sword light collided with the one-horned flood dragon's scales, sparks flew everywhere, and even the sound of metal clashing could be heard. After this sword light completely dissipated, the one-horned flood dragon's neck was unexpectedly not pierced through. The long-bearded man seemed to have already expected that his sword light would not be able to break the neck of the one-horned flood dragon. Unexpectedly, after this sword light, he immediately followed up with three equally ferocious sword lights. Puff! When the goatee's fourth sword light pierced through the one-horned flood dragon's neck, the soft scales on the one-horned flood dragon's neck were directly torn apart, while at the same time an arrow of blood shot out. Ning Qing could clearly feel that the blood arrow had already turned into a purplish-red color. It could be seen that the two poisonous pills in the hands of the goat-bearded man were extremely terrifying. When the one-horned flood dragon's neck was pierced, it immediately caused the one-horned flood dragon to go berserk. Its huge tail swept back without any warning. The goat-bearded man, who had continuously chopped out several sword lights, was already running out of true essence. When the one-horned flood dragon swept back, he simply had no way to dodge, and was directly swept into his waist. The long-bearded man also spouted an arrow of blood, and was once again swept away by the one-horned flood dragon, and once again crashed into a distant giant tree. Even Ning Cheng was able to hear the crisp sounds of his bones breaking under the bombardment. Ning Cheng was secretly cursing in his heart. This kind of person who betrayed his friends, was someone he despised the most. It would be best if this fellow was also swallowed by the one-horned flood dragon. The one-horned flood dragon was poisoned, and its neck was cut open. That tail attack just now was already the last radiance of a setting sun. At this time, after sweeping away the goatee, it also became dispirited. It only trembled a few times in the same place, and then completely stopped. The goatee lying on the ground took out a black bottle, poured something into his mouth, and slowly stood up. I, Ma Chi Shui, have been planning for nearly 2 years, and today, I finally succeeded. He just laughed, and blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth, but the excitement in his eyes was beyond doubt. Is that so? Then should I say that I've waited for 2 months, and today, I've finally succeeded? Ning Cheng's voice made the long-bearded man suddenly sluggish. He had never thought that there would be someone else in this place. Then he saw Ning Cheng jump down from a big tree. When Ma Chi Shui saw Ning Cheng, he immediately understood his own situation. It was too early for him to be happy. At this moment, there was only endless regret in his heart. He regretted not looking around before coming here. If he had been more careful, he would not have ended up like this. But he quickly calmed down, as he stared at Ning Cheng and said in a cold voice, "Although I am seriously injured, but if I go all out, you are just a trivial cultivator at the Qi Gathering 5th level. We'll split the flood dragon's skin in half, give me the flood dragon's horn, and then we'll go our separate ways." If not for the map of the Dawn Forest, Ning Cheng would have already made his move. He absolutely would not have traded with such a person. But without a map, he couldn't get out at all. "I heard that you have a map of the Dawn Forest. Give me your map, and then we can talk about other things," Ning Cheng said without any expression on his face. "No problem," Ma Chi Shui said as he reached his hand into the storage bag on his waist. Ning Cheng did not wait for the opposite party to take out the map. The flying sword in his hands immediately brought out 5 profound ice sword lights. "I also heard that there is a spiritual essence spring at the bottom of this lake. Even if there is no spiritual essence spring, this young master would still want to kill you." At this moment the long-bearded man did not have the ability to resist. Puff puff puff. The 5 profound ice sword lights directly passed through the chest of the long-bearded Ma Chi Shui, bringing out 5 blood arrows. These 5 blood arrows immediately turned into 5 pieces of blood ice. "You!" Ma Chi Shui's face was filled with unwillingness as he pointed at Ning Cheng. He really did not intend to start, but this bastard at the Qi Gathering 5th level actually took the opportunity to sneak attack him. He really did not understand, why did Ning Cheng not wait for him to take out the map before starting? The flying sword in Ning Cheng's hands once again swept out a sword light. Ma Chi Shui's head was like a football, as it was swept away. Ning Cheng had been here for less than half a year, but his experience as a rogue cultivator had risen in a straight line. Since Ma Chi Shui had reached into the storage bag to take out something, it meant that his things were inside the storage bag. As long as he killed him, would he still be afraid of not having a map? Besides, if Ma Chi Shui had lied to him, even if he forced the opposite party to make a map, he estimated that the other party would not be able to make a real map. Moreover, with Ma Chi Shui's injuries, wanting him to make a map, it was simply impossible. After Ning Cheng killed Ma Chi Shui, he first arrived at Ma Chi Shui's side, grabbed his storage bag and threw it into his own storage bag. At the same time, he sent out a few fireballs, turning Ma Chi Shui into flying ash. After taking care of the long-bearded Ma Chi Shui, Ning Cheng returned to the side of the one-horned flood dragon that was poisoned by Ma Chi Shui. At this time the one-horned flood dragon was covered in black blood. A burst of fishy smell assaulted his nostrils. Ning Cheng immediately felt a burst of dizziness. Such a powerful poison, Ning Cheng was secretly startled in his heart. He had just smelled a little bit of the smell, and was already feeling dizzy. Ning Cheng quickly took out a piece of cloth and covered his nose and mouth, before approaching the one-horned flood dragon. Even if Ning Cheng did not know what materials were needed for crafting artifacts, he knew that this one-horned flood dragon's body was a treasure. A level 4 monstrous beast would already have a monster core, but he did not know if this one-horned flood dragon would still have a monster core after eating such a powerful poison. Ning Cheng threw the 4-edged sword that was placed next to the one-horned flood dragon into his storage bag, and then took out his flying sword, wanting to break open the flood dragon's skin. The incomparably hard rubber made Ning Cheng realize that he had overestimated his own strength. He was at the Qi-gathering 5th level, but he was not even able to cut open the hide of a monstrous beast. It could be seen that the skin of this one-horned flood dragon was extremely hard. This flood dragon was extremely poisonous, as such Ning Cheng did not dare to put this thing into his storage bag, moreover his storage bag would not be able to hold this one-horned flood dragon. Fortunately, no one came to this place. After the one-horned flood dragon was killed, the smell of blood spread out, but the smell of blood contained a strong poison. A demonic beast's sense of smell was extremely sensitive. No demonic beast was willing to come to a place that emitted venom. Ning Cheng spent a full 2 days, before he was able to take off the flood dragon's skin bit by bit. He also took out the flood dragon's horn and the flood dragon's tendon, and put them all into his storage bag. Especially the horn of the flood dragon, Ning Cheng had already planned to find someone to refine it into a 7 Pleiades ice needle. Once he had the 7 Pleiades ice needle, he would be able to cast this magical technique, and it would definitely be a supreme weapon. He did not find the flood dragon's core, and did not know if the flood dragon's core had already changed, or if the one-horned flood dragon was not a class for monstrous beast. After dealing with these things, Ning Cheng completely burned the flood dragon with fire, and then buried the burnt residue in an open space. After Ning Cheng tidied up the place, although it still looked very messy, but it was much better than before. Although he had made a small fortune, Ning Cheng did not choose to go back to the tree hole to cultivate. He first jumped into the clear water lake. According to the words of the long-bearded man, this clear water lake contained spiritual essence. And the reason why this one-horned flood dragon occupied this lake, was because of the spiritual essence in this lake. Now that the overlord one-horned flood dragon in this clear water lake had been killed, he certainly would not be in any danger if he entered the clear water lake. In fact, Ning Cheng's guess was not wrong. After he entered the clear water lake, he did not have any difficulties swimming to the bottom of the lake next to a huge group of rocks. A trace of rich spiritual qi was emitted from the group of rocks. Ning Cheng easily found a huge cave in the middle of the group of rocks. This cave was definitely the place where the one-horned flood dragon cultivated. Now that the one-horned flood dragon was gone, Ning Cheng did not have to worry about any dangers. He directly swam into the cave in the middle of the group of rocks. The water in the cave was getting less and less. Ning Cheng swam to the back. He could even walk inside. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the cave was completely devoid of water, and a glimmer of light appeared in front of him. Ning Cheng looked at the pair of huge night pearls in front of him in amazement. This pair of night pearls, if he were to obtain them on Earth, then it would immediately cause a sensation all over the world. Even if he did not obtain them on Earth, in this place, this pair of night pearls would also be priceless. A slight breeze blew from the inside of the cave. Ning Cheng immediately understood that this cave was definitely connected to some place outside. Ning Cheng walked along the cave for more than 10 meters, until a spring appeared in front of him. At the top of the spring, there was still a constant flow of spring liquid seeping out. A rich spiritual qi was emitted from the spring. How could Ning Cheng not know that this was the spiritual essence that the long-bearded man was talking about? Next to this small spiritual essence pool, there was a flat stone about the same size as the spring. This stone was polished to an incomparably smooth level. Ning Cheng did not need to guess. He knew that this flat stone was the place where the one-horned flood dragon cultivated. It must have been hard for the one-horned flood dragon, with its several feet long body hovering above the flat stone, it cultivated. Such a big spiritual essence spring, made Ning Cheng's heart somewhat palpitate. Even when he had obtained more than 500 spirit stones, he was not this excited. This was not only an excellent place to cultivate, but it was also a source of flowing spiritual qi. Spirit stones were consumables, moreover he did not have many of them. Quietly cultivating in this place was the real hard truth. No wonder that the one-horned flood dragon was able to cultivate to rank 4. Unfortunately, the one-horned flood dragon had been cultivating for a long time. Its experience was very poor. Otherwise, with its strength, even if there were dozens of the long-bearded man, it would still not be enough to deal with them. Ning Cheng once again walked towards the top of the cave, and found that there was nothing else inside. There was only a slight breeze coming from above, and then forming a cycle, and then blowing back. Ning Cheng, for the first time, decided to use this place as a base for his cultivation. He was not anxious to cultivate, but rather returned to the entrance of the cave at the bottom of the lake. With the flying sword chopping down, in just a short time, the entrance of the cave was completely blocked. With the strength of the one-horned flood dragon, even if it did not block the entrance of the cave, there would not be any other monstrous beasts that would come to snatch this spiritual essence spring, but Ning Cheng could not. His cultivation was really too weak. He was only at the trivial qi gathering 5th level. Chapter 47. After blocking the original entrance to the rock cave, Ning Cheng still did not feel relieved, as he arranged a simple shielding array formation, and once again returned to the spiritual essence pond. Ning Cheng did not touch the materials of the one-horned flood dragon. He didn't know how to refine artifacts, especially that flood dragon horn. He planned to use it to refine a fine needle artifact for sneak attacks. At this time Ning Cheng took out the storage bag of the long-bearded man. What he wanted to know the most was whether the long-bearded man had a map of the Dawn Forest or not. The goat-bearded man's storage bag, according to Yi's words, should be called a storage bag. The space inside it was really small and pitiful. The things inside were also pitifully few. In addition to a few low-level spirit herbs, there were a few unknown pills and a jade slip whose contents could not be seen. Apart from that, there was nothing else. The most precious thing that the goat-bearded man had, was the four-edged sword that Ning Cheng had confiscated. Ning Cheng once again threw the goat-bearded man's storage bag into his own storage bag, as he felt somewhat disappointed in his heart. Since he could not find the map, then in the future he would have to rely on his own ability to get out of the Dawn Forest. This long-bearded man had said that he could cross the Dawn Forest. If it was not a lie, then it meant that he had already memorized the safe route in his mind. Cultivation did not have the luxury of time. With the help of a small spiritual pond, Ning Cheng spent almost all of his time on cultivation. Although Ning Cheng used the spiritual essence pond to cultivate, it was different from the one-horned flood dragon. The one-horned flood dragon knew that it could not absorb all the spiritual qi in the spiritual essence pond in one go. As for Ning Cheng, he directly drained the pond to catch the fish. He was afraid that he would absorb a little less, so why would he care about using it sparingly? A month later, Ning Cheng advanced to the qi gathering 6th level. 3 months later, Ning Cheng broke through the intermediate stages of the qi gathering realm, and arrived at the qi gathering 7th level. At this moment, the true energy in his body had formed a stream, and when it moved, it was like true energy, incomparably powerful. 5 months later, Ning Cheng advanced to the qi gathering 8th level, but at the same time he had to leave this small spiritual essence pond. He had already used up all the spiritual energy in the spirit essence pond. It would probably take him at least 3 years to gather such a pond of spiritual liquid. Ning Cheng believed that he would not stay here and wait for 3 years. He was already at the qi gathering 8th level, and would soon advance to the qi gathering 9th level. Once he reached the qi gathering 9th level, he would have to face the problem of how to enter the true condensation realm. In the Ping continent, there were very few true condensation cultivators. In addition to the scarcity of spiritual qi resources and the problem of spiritual roots, there was also another reason why there was no true condensation pill. The true condensation pill was something that a cultivator at the Qi gathering 9th level must use in order to advance to the true condensation realm. Ning Cheng had also seen in the jade strip that Fang Jian had given him that there were some people who did not need the true condensation pill to advance to the true condensation realm, but Ning Cheng was sure that he was not that kind of person. If he wanted to advance to the true condensation realm, then he might not even need a single true condensation pill. Refining the true condensation pill required more than 10 kinds of precious spiritual grasses, but the most important one, and also the most difficult to obtain, was the golden cicada fruit. Ning Cheng had a golden cicada fruit on him, so he decided to leave this place and find someone to refine it into a true condensation pill. Ning Cheng obviously thought that things were too simple. The Dawn Forest did not give him a way out just because he had advanced to the Qi gathering 8th level. For an entire month, Ning Cheng was still trapped at the edge of the clear water lake. It was not that he did not want to go out, but over the course of a month, Ning Cheng found that every area of the Dawn Forest was guarded by an extremely powerful monstrous beast. During the time he was looking for a way out, he encountered more than 10 Class 2 monstrous beasts, and even encountered Class 3 monstrous beasts twice. If he had not run away quickly, and the Class 3 monstrous beasts did not chase after him, he would not have been able to stay at the clear water lake. But Ning Cheng was also not without some gains. There were already many monstrous beasts that had tacitly agreed that the clear water lake was his territory. This was the result of Ning Cheng killing several Class 2 monstrous beasts. Ning Cheng was now at the Qi gathering 8th level. He had modified the 36 profound ice sword technique, and could now cast 12 of them. But this was not the biggest gain for him. His biggest gain was that with the cultivation of Qi gathering 8th level, he was able to step on a flying sword and fly for a certain distance. The cultivation method to fly on a flying sword was something that Ning Cheng had obtained from the jade strip that was given to him by Fang Jian, which made Ning Cheng feel very proud of himself. In the Ping continent, even some of the cultivators in the true condensation realm were not able to step on a flying sword, but now he, a cultivator at the Qi gathering 8th level, was able to do it. Even if Ning Cheng knew that his cultivation was high enough that he could step on a flying sword, but when he really stepped on a flying sword, his heart was still filled with excitement. Before, when he had shot out the fireball and the wind edge, he had never felt this kind of excitement. Fortunately, Ning Cheng was aware of his own limitations. He was very clear that if he wanted to fly out of the Dawn Forest, his cultivation was still far from enough. In a month's time, Ning Cheng had killed hundreds of Class 1 and below monstrous beasts. He was constantly looking for a way out, and constantly had to pass through the territories of other monstrous beasts, which also caused him to constantly have conflicts with other monstrous beasts. Once, he even beheaded dozens of Class 1 monstrous wolves in one breath. Using the 36 profound ice sword technique to kill these monstrous wolves, it was as simple as harvesting wheat. During this time, Ning Cheng summed up a rule: if he passed through the territory of a Class 3 monstrous beast, and was far away from the Class 3 monstrous beast, then the Class 3 monstrous beast would simply ignore him. If he passed through the territory of a monstrous beast whose cultivation was similar to his, it would instead cause a conflict. After figuring out this rule, Ning Cheng finally understood why when he was at the edge of the clear water lake, the one-horned flood dragon had ignored him. It turned out that it regarded him as a dispensable ant. According to Ning Cheng's summary of his experience, all the low-leveled monstrous beasts that lived in the territory of the high-leveled monstrous beasts were just a lunchbox for the high-leveled monstrous beasts. This lunchbox was something that the high-leveled monstrous beasts wanted to eat, and would be delivered to them at any time. In other words, the 2 months that he had been living at the edge of the clear water lake, was in fact a lunchbox for the one-horned flood dragon. Once the one-horned flood dragon was free, it could kill him at any time. On the contrary, if he passed through the territory of a monstrous beast with a similar cultivation, then these monstrous beasts would think that he had come to snatch their territory, and would immediately try to protect their territory from being invaded. It was precisely because he knew this point, that Ning Cheng did not hesitate to ruthlessly kill the monstrous beasts that came to the clear water lake. According to the law of the jungle, he absolutely could not give the rest of the monstrous beasts an illusion, and let those monstrous beasts think that he was easy to bully. In this 1 month of killing, Ning Cheng's fighting experience and the progress of his 2 magical techniques had increased by leaps and bounds. With his current experience, if he was still at the Qi-gathering 3rd level and fought against that Xiang Fei Do, then he would absolutely not be injured. After Ning Cheng's crazy killing spree during this period of time, many of the monstrous beasts around the clear water lake already knew that Ning Cheng was very aggressive, and would not show any mercy. Later, as long as Ning Cheng did not stay in their territory for a long time, these monstrous beasts were generally not willing to come out and fight with Ning Cheng, and would directly pretend to be ostriches and let Ning Cheng pass. For Ning Cheng, if he left the clear water lake, and did not find a way out, it would not be a good thing. At least in this area of the clear water lake, he could be regarded as an overlord. Hoo-hoo! A brown thorn bear at this time was roaring at Ning Cheng, but it did not dare to rush towards Ning Cheng. It was roaring at Ning Cheng because Ning Cheng had once again come to its territory, and had even stayed for a long time without leaving. This thorn bear was an early-stage Class 2 monstrous beast, and had suffered 2 losses in the hands of Ning Cheng before, but fortunately, Ning Cheng had only passed by during those times. But this troublesome guy in its eyes unexpectedly came again, and this time he did not leave, and even dug around in its territory. Get lost, I'm just looking for a magnet. If you continue to be so long-winded, then don't blame me for starting. Ning Cheng waved the flying sword in his hand and roared at the thorn bear. He really came here to look for a magnet. He still had more than 300 low-grade spirit stones on him. Ning Cheng felt that these 300 low-grade spirit stones would not be enough to support him to cultivate to the Qi-gathering 9th level. What's more, he also wanted to go out and look for a true condensation pill. For more than a month, he still could not find a way out, so he decided to look for a magnet to make a compass. Ning Cheng guessed that the place he was in should be a planet, similar to a big magnet. He wanted to make something that could point to a fixed position, and then as long as he followed one of the directions, one day he would be able to get out. As for whether the compass he made pointed to the south or not, it did not affect him at all. But this Class 2 thorn bear did not know that Ning Cheng was looking for a magnet, and roared at Ning Cheng. It wanted Ning Cheng to quickly leave its territory. Ning Cheng saw that this thorn bear was simply unable to understand his thoughts. He simply brought out his flying sword, and was ready to start. At this time, a burst of rapid footsteps came. It seemed that someone was rushing towards him. Ning Cheng immediately gave up the idea of fighting this thorn bear, and stared at the person rushing towards him. It was a young man covered with scars. The qi in his body was dissipating, and he could not see his cultivation level. When he saw Ning Cheng, his eyes suddenly showed a hint of joy, but then he fell to the ground due to exhaustion. Senior. Although he fell to the ground, the young man did not faint, and still called out to Ning Cheng with a look of expectation, apparently hoping that Ning Cheng would help him. The young man had just fallen to the ground, when a grayish-black wolf demon chased after him. This wolf demon was already a Class 1 peak monstrous beast. When it chased after him, it immediately saw Ning Cheng holding a flying sword in his hands. Almost at the same time when it saw Ning Cheng, this grayish-black wolf demon quickly turned around, and in just 2 breaths of time, it escaped into the depths of the forest, disappearing from sight. Ning Cheng did not care about the grayish-black wolf demon that escaped. He just subconsciously touched his face, as he thought in his heart, "Am I very old? Being called as a senior by a person older than him?" One must know that his actual age was not even 18 years old. His hand touched his beard, which made Ning Cheng guess that he might look like an uncle who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Ning Cheng took out a jade bottle and handed it to the young man who had fallen to the ground and said, "I do not have any life-saving pills, I only have a little water, you can drink it." Although Ning Cheng said that he only had a little water, but this water was really not ordinary. It was filled from the spiritual essence spring pool, and at least it was rich in spiritual qi. The young man looked at the distant thorn bear that was somewhat afraid of Ning Cheng, and his eyes flashed with a bit of hope. He did not take the water that Ning Cheng handed to him, but took out a package and handed it to Ning Cheng and said, "I can't do it, please help me give this package to Meng Yujing from the Hua Continent's Falling Star 5-Star Academy, let her help me pass it to my younger brother Ko Xiuyuan, and say that this is from Ko Hong." Chapter 48. An E in Nanyuan City was not bad, but Nanyuan City was also the place where Lan Yinyu lived. He and Lan Yinyu had a big enmity. With his current cultivation level, he was not Lan Yinyu's opponent. The reason why he did not shave his beard was to make him look older. This time when he went to Nanyuan City, he absolutely could not let his acquaintances see him. Ning Cheng wanted to see the contents of the notice, but he still held back his curiosity. If at this time he went to see the contents of the notice, it would certainly be seen as the first time he came here. The reason why he helped Ko Hong set up a tombstone, was because Ning Cheng was filled with emotion about his future, and also to thank Ko Hong for leaving him a map. Ning Cheng's heart was also somewhat gloomy. In this place, life was like a soap bubble, it could easily burst. Wasn't this young man called Ko Hong a portrayal of himself? If one day he died like this, at this moment who would he miss? Ning Cheng was dressed like an adventurer, plus he had been fighting against monstrous beasts in the Don Forest for a long time, and also had a beard, so he did not need to pretend, and had the image of an adventurer. After he came here, he had been with an E for the longest time. Moreover, an E had saved his life. In his heart, he had long regarded an E as the closest person in this place. If an E had no one to take care of her, and was left alone in Nanyuan City, her fate would have been incomparably tragic. When the young man heard Ning Cheng's words, his eyes suddenly showed anxiety, and his tone also became urgent. "My meridians are broken, my Zifu is broken, I absolutely cannot live. I have a map." Ning Cheng returned to the lakeside, and buried the young man at the lakeside, and then simply made a tombstone, and wrote a few words on the tombstone, "Ko Hong's tomb." Seeing Ning Cheng leave, the thorn bear was relieved, and turned around to return to its lair. The stalls on both sides of the streets, the shops, the restaurants, the rest stops were all packed with people. It was just like a big venue, it was very lively. After repeatedly thinking about it, Ning Cheng decided to first go to the Ping Continent's Nanyuan City. Nanyuan City was the capital of the Ming-Yi country. Moreover, the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy was also located in this place. The reason why Ning Cheng wanted to take the risk to go to this place, was because he was somewhat worried about an E. Although those people treated an E like a princess, but that was because an E said that she had a pure wood spiritual root. But what if an E did not have a pure spiritual root? Initially, he had bought a pair of pearl hair clips, but Tian Muan had lost one of them, leaving only one in Ning Ruolan's hands. Today, he was able to see the exact same hair clip again. Wasn't it God's will? This pearl hair clip originally appeared in pairs. This young girl in the cloth robe was holding on to one, while Ning Cheng could only hold on to one. As such, he certainly wanted to buy the entire pair of pearl hair clip. If the young girl didn't want it, then he would buy it all. If the young girl wanted it, then he would ask the young girl to help him and give him the pearl hair clip. After saying this, the young man could no longer hold on. His slightly raised head fell to the ground. When Ning Cheng heard that there really was a map, he immediately stepped forward and grabbed the leather scroll and said, "If I have the opportunity to go to the Hua continent, I will definitely help you with this." At this time, Ning Cheng was no longer the young and inexperienced teenager who had just escaped from the Tsanglo city, as he had not shaved off his beard. From the Tsangqin province to the Don Forest, the arduous journey that he had gone through, made Ning Cheng not look like a teenager, rather he looked more like an adventurer who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Compared to the Tsanglo city and the Mingat city, the Nanyuan city was much more magnificent. Ning Cheng was completely unable to see how long the Nanyuan city's walls were, and the huge city gates exuded an extremely ancient aura. Any place showed the long history of the Nanyuan city. This was just an ordinary country, Ning Cheng was secretly thinking in his heart. if it was a place where the 9-star academy was located, then he did not know to what extent it would be magnificent. Putting the package into his storage bag, Ning Cheng took out the leather scroll map. Opening the map, he really saw a blue-colored command token. He did not know what material the command token was made of, but it seemed to be very old. The command token was engraved with 2 words Clear Sky. Presumably this command token was the admission certificate for the Clear Sky 5-star academy. It seems that Ko Hong did not have a choice. If Ko Hong had a choice, then he would definitely not give these things to a stranger. As if he had heard Ning Cheng's promise, the young man sighed, and completely died. Of course, his cultivation level was still too low. Ning Cheng wanted to go to the Nanyuan city to see if there was any way to exchange the golden cicada fruit for a true condensation pill. If he could advance to the true condensation realm, and then pass through the Dawn Forest, then it would be even more guaranteed. Ning Cheng did not open the contents of Ko Hong's package, but he had already swept it with his spiritual sense. It seemed to be a dark wooden box. In addition to that, there was also a letter and a storage bag. He estimated that the letter was written by Ko Hong to his fiancée Meng Yujing, but he did not know why Ko Hong did not put all the things in the storage bag. But Ning Cheng's spirit was aroused. Do you really have a map to get out of the Dawn Forest? The young man obviously did not have the strength to explain anything to Ning Cheng. He just trembled and took out a leather scroll from his clothes and said, "This leather scroll is a map. Inside it there is a Clear Sky 5-star Academy's Clear Sky command token. With this you can enter the Clear Sky Academy. This is for you. Please be sure to deliver this package to my fiancée Meng Yujing's hands." There were constantly people coming in and out of the huge city gate, and there were 2 teams of city guards guarding on both sides of the city gate, showing that this place was ruled by someone. On the city wall outside the city gate, there was a very eye-catching notice pasted on it. Ning Cheng glanced at it from afar. It seemed to be about the enrollment of the Clear Heart 3-star Academy. There were not many people in front of the notice. It was obvious that this notice had been posted for a long time. "Excuse me, how much is this?" Ning Cheng grabbed the pearl hair clip and asked the owner of the stall, while his eyes were also staring at the other pearl hair clip in the hands of the young girl. The reason why Ning Cheng was so excited was because this pair of pearl hair clips was not only the same color as the one he had given to his sister Ruolan, but even the shape was exactly the same. It was in the shape of a snowflake. If he did not consider the material factor, then this pair of pearl hair clips and the pair of pearl hair clips that he had bought back on Earth were completely no different. Not only that, the map was also marked with a large number of reference points. Through this map, Ning Cheng came to know that the place that he was in belonged to the lower-ranked monstrous beasts of the Dawn Forest. In a few places, there were even Class 5 monstrous beasts roaming around. When Ning Cheng opened the leather scroll map, he immediately knew that he could go out. This map, for him, was simply perfect. A very detailed route was marked on it. Moreover, even the territories of the monstrous beasts were marked on the map. The route marked on the map was marked by the monstrous beasts. The highest level was only a Class 2 monstrous beast. This level of monstrous beasts really did not pose any threat to Ning Cheng. In Ning Cheng's mind, he actually did not want to go back to the Ping continent. He wanted to go to the Yuan continent to have a look. After all, the Yuan continent was closer to the Hua continent. Moreover, it was also closer to an intermediate class continent. After another day, Ning Cheng met a team of adventurers at the edge of the Dawn Forest. From these adventurers, Ning Cheng bought a map to the Ming-Yi country. Outside the Dawn Forest was a rolling mountain range. Ning Cheng did not use his flying sword to fly during the day, but rather concealed his cultivation at the Qi-gathering 4th level. Even if he used his flying sword to fly, it would only be done at night. Ning Cheng was not very interested in entering the academy, mainly because his spiritual roots were constantly changing. He simply did not dare to enter the academy to repeatedly test his spiritual roots. Looking at the map in his hands, although he was in the Dawn Forest, but he was far from the depths of the Dawn Forest. From this place to the Ping continent was not very far. On the contrary, if he wanted to go to the Yuan continent, the journey would be 10 times longer than the journey to the Ping continent. Walking and stopping like this, after half a month, Ning Cheng finally arrived outside of the Nan Yuan city. What a beautiful pearl hair clip! A crisp voice attracted Ning Cheng's attention. Ning Cheng turned around and saw a young girl wearing an ordinary coarse cloth dress standing in front of a stall, holding a pearl hair clip in her hand. He could not help but exclaim in amazement. Ning Cheng's chi was limited. After a night of intermittent flight using the flying sword, he was already very tired, so during the day he could restore his chi by traveling. Ning Rulan's cute face appeared in front of his eyes. Ning Cheng sighed. He knew that he would not have the opportunity to see his little sister in this lifetime. With the map, Ning Cheng was also very familiar with the surroundings. In just 2 days, Ning Cheng was already out of the Dawn Forest. Ning Cheng suddenly felt a bit sad. He did not go to check the leather scroll and the package that the young man had given him. He just picked up the young man, turned around and quickly left the territory of the bristle bears. He only glanced at the notice, and followed the crowd of people into the Nan Yuan city. When he passed through the gates, he was not questioned by the city guards. Ning Cheng could feel that most of the people on the streets were ordinary people, although there were a few cultivators, but their cultivations were not very high. He slightly relaxed. Presumably with Lan Yin Yu's pretentious nature, she would not come to this kind of street and rub shoulders with some ordinary mortals. This was not all of the map. There was also a part of the map that showed the route from the Yuan continent to the Hua continent. The Yuan continent and the Hua continent were separated by an endless desert. This map also had a suggested route, but there was no reference point, as it required a directional array disk. When the young man spoke about the map, a trace of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth, as he stuttered. The number of people in the Nan Yuan city was more than what Ning Cheng had imagined. Almost everywhere was crowded with people. Compared to the Zhonglu city, the Nan Yuan city was still orderly. At least no one dared to ride a unicorn and run wildly through the streets. When Ning Cheng's eyes fell on the pearl hair clip in her hand, he was suddenly shocked. He immediately stepped forward, and took another similar pearl hair clip in his hand. Stop, don't joke with me. I can't even get out of the Dawn Forest. How can I go to the Hua continent? I'm sorry, you should recuperate from your injuries, and go by yourself. Ning Cheng refused without hesitation. He was very clear about where the Hua continent was. Not to mention that he had not even gotten out of the Dawn Forest. Even if he managed to get out of the Dawn Forest, he would not be able to go to the Hua continent. Ning Cheng did not have a directional array disk, but it was not important to him. He did not want to go to the Hua continent. Chapter 49. This girl in the cloth skirt looked very rustic, but Ning Cheng found that she was not the least bit worse than an E. Her pair of eyes were bright and clear. That kind of innocent eyes seemed to be able to see into the bottom of a person's heart, making people not have the heart to refuse. But Ning Cheng was sure that she had never cultivated, as there was not even half a shred of chi fluctuations coming from her body. Ning Cheng did not reply to these words. Asking him to give away the pair of pearl hair clips that he missed so much to his sister, Roalan, to a stranger, it was something that he was not willing to do. In order for the 5 academies to come out on top in 3 years, they would simultaneously recruit the most outstanding disciples from the Ping continent, the Yuan continent and the Hua continent. The academies that could participate in the training of outstanding disciples were all 3-star academies and above. My Clear Heart Academy is naturally one of them. As long as you are selected by the Clear Heart Academy, then you will have the opportunity to go to the Hua continent's 5-star academy. Oh, what's going on? Ning Cheng was really curious. For the Clear Heart 3-star academy to be selected, it was certainly a great honor and fortune, but it was not enough to reach the heavens in a single bound. The stall owner was very satisfied with Ning Cheng's attitude. He did not even bother to greet his customers, and carefully explained to Ning Cheng, I heard that the Hua continent has 5 5-star academies. 3 years later there will be a lower-class continent's most important tournament between these 5 5-star academies. Once one of the 5-star academies won the competition, then they would obtain great benefits. Ning Qing did not bring this youth to the rest stop. Now that the rest stops and restaurants in the Nanyuan city were already overcrowded, even if he went there he would not be able to find a quiet place to sit. Although he looked like a straightforward person, but he was able to see through Ning Cheng's purpose with a glance. Listening to Ning Cheng's words, the young girl's brows slightly wrinkled. It was not because Ning Cheng was not willing to transfer the pearl hair clip to her. She knew that in Nanyuan city, only a person like her would regard a gold coin as such a big deal. Ning Cheng had always been proud that his memory and analytical ability were unparalleled, but today he came to know that he was not the only one with a strong memory. With a simple glance, he was able to sketch out every detail of his facial expression. How much of a genius did he have to be able to do this? Ning Cheng could tell from the tone of the young girl in the cloth robe that she was very fond of this pair of pearl hair clips. But this pair of pearl hair clips was something that he definitely needed, and being able to see the same pair of pearl hair clips in Nanyuan city, the pleasant surprise in his heart was simply unable to be expressed. This was not something that could be represented by simply refining 2 pearl flowers. For Ning Cheng, this was a kind of mysterious heaven's will. What kind of great benefits did the academy receive? Ning Cheng subconsciously asked. Even a 5-star academy would care about such great benefits. He was really curious about it. The stall owner who had just earned 2 gold coins was in a good mood. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, he immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. How is that possible? Although there are a lot of people here, but most of them come here to snatch business from the people of our city. When you go to the spiritual root testing plaza later, there will be stalls from outside. The number of people that the Clear Heart Academy wants has nothing to do with the people who come, it is only related to the cultivation of the spiritual root and the perception. In her opinion, even if this pearl hair clip was exquisite and beautiful, it would at most be worth a few dozen copper coins, or even less than a silver coin. Ning Cheng did not pay attention to the words of the other people. He directly put away the pearl hair clip, but did not leave. Instead he asked the stall owner, "Boss, are there so many people coming to Nanyuan city to participate in the selection for the Clear Heart Academy?" Although the Clear Heart Academy is big, but does it need so many people, right? 1 gold coin. The stall owner was obviously very good at doing business. Seeing Ning Cheng and the young girl in the cloth skirt holding a pearl hair clip, he immediately opened his mouth like an lion. Ning Cheng looked back and saw a very sturdy-looking young man. This young man was not only very sturdy-looking, but he was also wearing coarse clothes. Ning Cheng immediately guessed that this young man should have some relation with the young girl in the cloth skirt who had just left. Ning Cheng cast an apologetic look at the young girl and said, "I am really sorry, this pair of pearl hair clip is of great significance to me. Can I ask you to part with it, and give me the pearl hair clip in your hands? I am willing to give you another pair of pearl hair clips, you can choose whichever you like." After listening to Ning Cheng's words, the young man's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. "Previously when my younger sister found me, she was somewhat depressed. From childhood till now I have never let her suffer any grievances. After I asked her, I came to know that the pearl hair clip that she had taken a fancy to was bought by someone else." The reason why he chose this young man to ask, was because Ning Cheng could see that the opposite party should be a very simple and honest person. Moreover, he also did not cultivate. Asking him was a bit safer than asking someone who had cultivated. Otherwise, as a chi-gathering cultivator coming to Nanyuan city and not knowing about the matter of the Clear Heart Academy recruiting disciples, it would certainly arouse suspicion. If it was any other place, then he would not care about it, but here he had an enemy, Lon Enu. Spiritual Root Testing Plaza. Ning Cheng did not understand and asked. Her tone was gentle and demure, as if giving the pearl hair clip to Ning Cheng was a matter of course. I know, but I still need to ask for the details." Ning Cheng quickly lowered his posture and cupped his fists. He was really prepared to go to the Hua continent. Ning Cheng saw the portrait on the handkerchief and was immediately sluggish. There was actually such a skillful person in the world. This portrait was only a few strokes, but his image was completely outlined on the handkerchief. This simple lifelike picture was comparable to the lifelike picture taken by a digital camera, even the hand-drawn picture was more lifelike. I don't know about this, the stall owner said with a rare embarrassment. I know, but you need to sell me the pearl hair clip that you just bought. A hoarse voice sounded from the side of Ning Cheng. How did you know that it was me? Ning Cheng blurted out, there were so many people on the street, moreover the young girl wearing the cloth skirt had already left for a long time, because he had a question to ask the stall owner, he was delayed and did not leave. It was reasonable to say, that this youth did not see him buy anything, so he should not know that it was him who bought the pearl hair clip. Ning Cheng quickly took out 2 gold coins and handed it to the stall owner, and then thanked the young girl wearing the cloth skirt, many thanks, you can choose a pair of pearl hair clip, consider it as my gift to you. The young girl wearing the cloth skirt was obviously afraid of causing a bigger dispute, she did not dare to say anything, and quickly turned around and walked into the crowd, and soon disappeared. The young girl wearing the cloth skirt directly refused this time, no need, I like that pair of snowflake-shaped pearl hair clip, I do not want other people to give it to me, I can afford to buy it for 2 gold coins. The stall owner unhurriedly said, my pearl hair clip is unique, there will never be a second pair, moreover they are all handmade by the imperial city's master casting, how can you say that this price is expensive? Besides, I said 1 for 1 gold coin, not 1 for 1 gold coin. When Ning Cheng saw this, he first thanked the stall owner, and then said to the youth, since this friend wants the pearl hair clip, then let's go to a quiet place to talk. The reason why she frowned was because Ning Cheng said that he would give her a pair of pearl hair clip, which made her feel that this person was too frivolous. For a man to give a pearl hair clip to a woman, it was not a casual gift. The young girl also looked at Ning Cheng, her eyes were filled with hope, she hoped that Ning Cheng would give up the pearl hair clip to her. She was not a fool, and obviously saw that the stall owner had increased the price, not because the pearl hair clip was really so precious, but because someone was competing with her, and this person was now standing right next to her. The youth did not think much about it, and immediately nodded and said, okay, you lead the way. No matter what you ask, as long as I know, I will tell you, the condition is that you give me the pearl hair clip. What's more, nowadays the Nanyuan city was filled with outsiders, not to mention 1 gold coin, even if it was 10 gold coins, as long as someone took a fancy to it, there would be people who would buy it. The stall owner was incomparably proud, it was as if the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy was his personal property. Have you heard of the Hua continent? The Yixing mainland has 9 continents, among them the Hua continent is one of the 3 lower-leveled continents with the richest spiritual qi, if not for its bad location, it could have been classified as an intermediate-class continent. Boss, then I'll give you 1 gold coin, can you sell these 2 pearl hair clips to me? The young girl wearing the cloth skirt looked at the pearl hair clip in Ning Cheng's hands, and said while clenching her teeth. She had come to the Nanyuan city to participate in the selection for the Clear Heart Academy, but this pearl hair clip was something that she really liked, moreover when she held this pearl hair clip, she had a very tranquil feeling, she felt that this pearl hair clip was made for her. The hands of the young girl wearing the cloth skirt slightly trembled, she could not believe it and repeated the words, this pair of pearl hair clip for 1 gold coin. How is this possible? The young man was a little embarrassed as he took out a handkerchief and said, I said that I would definitely help her get it back, she drew a portrait for me, I recognized that this person was you, there was a person on the side who saw it clearly, and somewhat disdainfully ridiculed him, a man actually competing with a woman for the pearl hair clip. Saying that the stall owner was afraid that Ning Cheng did not understand, and said in an extremely proud tone, our Mingyi country's Clear Heart 3-Star Academy is recruiting disciples, it is not simple, if you are selected, then you might be able to reach the sky in a single bound. Ning Cheng also knew that the stall owner was asking for an exorbitant price, but now not to mention 1 gold coin, even if it was 1,000 gold coins, it was not a lot of money for him. Moreover, the use of gold coins for him was getting less and less. What he needed now were spirit stones, even if it was a chi-gathering stone, it would not be of much use to him. No. The boss spoke out in a categorical tone, while simultaneously looking at Ning Cheng. From childhood till now, she had never spent so much money extravagantly to buy a small hair clip. Ning Cheng brought the young man to a slightly less secluded place, and straightforwardly and politely said, "Friend, that pearl hair clip for me has an extremely important meaning, there is no way for me to give it to you. But I really have just arrived in Nanyuan City, there are many things that I do not understand, so I would like to ask for your advice." The stall owner patiently replied, "You should not be here to participate in the Clear Heart Academy's selection, right? Generally, those who come to participate in the selection, will go to the Spiritual Root Testing Plaza for the first Spiritual Root Test. Only those who pass the first Spiritual Root Test, are eligible to enter the Clear Heart Academy to participate in the second Spiritual Root Test." Ning Cheng did not want to give away the pearl hair clip, but he wanted to know more about the situation. This young man did not seem to have any background, but he seemed to know more than the stall owner. Chapter 50. In my heart, my sister is a princess, but she is just like me, living in poverty. A few months ago, my sister heard that the Clear Heart Academy was recruiting students, and wanted to come, but she was not willing to tell me about it, she was afraid that I would be worried. The only thing I can do for her, is to sell all the things in the house, and then accompany her to come here to participate in the selection. The young man's tone was filled with a strong sense of love, it seemed that if his sister wanted the stars in the sky, he would find a way. What if your sister fails in the selection? Is there nothing in the house? When Ning Cheng asked this question, he was not thinking about the matter of the young man and his sister participating in the selection. He was thinking about him and Ruolan. Initially, in order to take care of his sister Ruolan, he had left everything in the house, and followed his sister to Jiangzhou. Wasn't this young man very similar to him? Hearing Ning Cheng's question, the young man said with certainty, "As long as someone is selected, my sister will definitely be selected, there is no one more outstanding than my sister." Ning Cheng did not refute this young man, a person who loved his sister so much, saying such words would only arouse his sympathy, and would not arouse his disgust. "This time my sister will definitely be selected to enter the Clear Heart Academy, I will help her get back this pair of pearl hair clips, it may be the last thing that I can do for her. So, I ask you to promise me. Although I do not have many gold coins, but I will try to give you more gold coins." The young man's tone was filled with pleading. He was obviously not a fool, he knew that once his sister was selected to enter the Clear Heart Academy, then he would no longer have anything to do with her. Ning Cheng did not say anything else, he just took out the pair of pearl hair clips and handed it to the young man and said, "I also love my sister very much, you can give this to your sister. Your sister has a brother like you, it is her happiness." Giving away the pearl hair clips, Ning Cheng sighed in his heart, he suddenly envied this young man. At least his sister could still see him, and was still under the same sky. Ah! The young man did not think that Ning Cheng would be so easy to talk to, he did not even have any hope, but Ning Cheng actually gave him the pearl hair clips. After a while, he reacted, and quickly went to take out the gold coins. Ning Cheng waved his hand and said, "I do not want your gold coins, for me, gold coins are simply superfluous things. The reason why I gave you this pearl hair clip is because I also have a younger sister, and she also likes this kind of pearl hair clip." Ah, this young man was a simple and honest person. He knew that this was stealing someone else's love. Could it be that his little sister was a little sister, but other people's little sister was not a little sister? But he was also reluctant to return the pearl hair clip to Ning Cheng, for a time he unexpectedly became tangled. "Why don't we each take one? You can also give one to your sister." The young man hesitated for a moment before he took out a pearl hair clip and handed it to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng gave it a push and said, "No need, this pearl hair clip is originally a pair, it is better not to separate it. And I might never see my sister again in this lifetime. If I keep the pearl hair clip, it will only make me sad. Just give it to your sister." This young man was not good with words and did not know how to comfort Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng showed a faint smile and said, "Let's not talk about the pearl hair clip. You said before that you knew about the tournament between the 5-star academies of the Hua continent. And what do you mean by first place?" When the youth saw that Ning Cheng had taken the initiative to change the topic, he sighed in relief, and quickly put away the pearl hair clip and explained, "I heard that the Yixing mainland's advanced class continents, in order to enhance the strength of the lower class continents, decided to support a 6-star academy in the Hua continent. This 6-star academy would become the only 6-star academy in the 3 lower class continents. But in the Hua continent, there were 5 5-star academies. In this case, which 5-star academy would be promoted to a 6-star academy would become a problem. For the sake of fairness, the people from the Yixing mainland's advanced level continents decided to choose through a competition. The 5 5-star academies will send their most outstanding disciples to participate in the tournament. The academy with the best results will be supported to become a 6-star academy, and the other 4 5-star academies will listen to the deployment of the 6-star academy." The young man who spoke till here was somewhat embarrassed as he scratched his head and said, "This is what my younger sister told me, and it was also what the people from the Clear Heart Academy told my younger sister. In fact, the students that the Clear Heart 3-star Academy recruited, would also undergo a selection process. Only the most outstanding and core disciples, would have the possibility of being selected to go to the Hua continent. After you arrive at the Hua continent, those 5-star academies will once again screen you again." "I understand, thank you." Ning Cheng nodded. He finally understood what was going on. It seems that the Clear Heart 3-star Academy was not the only 3-star academy that was selecting their disciples. The last time the Falling Star 5-star Academy specially came to select their disciples, perhaps it was because they had done a favor to the Ping continent's top expert Lian Hao Yen, and then selected some of the outstanding disciples in advance. This young man seemed to feel that the 2 questions that he had answered, were not enough to repay the pearl hair clip that Ning Cheng had given him, and added a sentence, "Big brother, if you are here to participate in the Clear Heart Academy selection, then you need to go to the Ming Pu Plaza on the outskirts of the Clear Heart Academy to test your spiritual roots, and then you will be eligible to enter the academy. My younger sister and I will go to test tomorrow. After half a month, the Clear Heart Academy will officially start to recruit students." Ning Cheng thanked him again, and was ready to leave to find a place to stay. The young man handed the handkerchief in his hand to Ning Cheng and said, "This portrait is yours, I will return it to you." Ning Cheng did not know whether to laugh or cry as he pushed the handkerchief back and said, "I do not need it, I will take my leave now. I wish you 2 brother and sister good luck, and hope that you will be selected to enter the academy." He was a person who had been in love before. Of course he would not be as careless as this young man, and casually take a woman's handkerchief. Until Ning Cheng walked far away, the young man was still muttering to himself in the same place, "This person is really a good person." Ning Cheng was not a good person. He saw his own shadow in this young man, which made him take the initiative to give up the 2 pearl hair clips. At this time Ning Cheng was looking for a place to stay in Nanyuan City. After he found a place to stay, he would go to the Ming Pu Plaza to take a look, and see if he could test his spiritual roots. Ning Cheng was very clear, to see an E would definitely not be simple. An E was in the Clear Heart Academy. Without anyone to guide her, he certainly would not be able to enter the Clear Heart Academy. If he wanted to see an E, he could only wait for the Clear Heart Academy to recruit students, and then fish in troubled waters to take a look. The inns in Nanyuan City were already full. Ning Cheng was far away from the Clear Heart Academy, and spent nearly 10 times the price to find a place to stay. After finding a place to stay, Ning Cheng did not stay in a place to stay. This time he came to Nanyuan City. In addition to seeing an E, there were many other things. The most important thing was of course to refine the 7 Pleiades ice needle and to look for the true condensation pill. Whether it was refining the 7 Pleiades ice needle or exchanging the golden cicada fruit for the true condensation pill, Ning Cheng did not dare to be careless. Fian Pill Pavilion was one of the 3 largest pill shops in Nanyuan City. But the location was relatively remote. It was located at the edge of the northern part of Nanyuan City. Nanyuan City was now filled with people. Even if the Fee and Pill Pavilion was more remote, there were still many cultivators coming and going. Ning Cheng was wearing a cultivator's hat that covered his face, and carrying a black bag on his back. He walked into the Fee and Pill Pavilion. In Nanyuan City, it was not uncommon to see people dressed like him. Some people really did not want to be recognized by others, and there were also some people who deliberately pretended to be deep. For Ning Cheng, no matter which one it was, the more of these people the better, at least he would not stand out. I want a bottle of spiritual qi returning liquid. Give me a bottle of spiritual qi returning liquid. When Ning Cheng came in, he heard a variety of noisy voices. Most of them were asking to buy a variety of spiritual qi returning liquids, some were buying pills, and some were bargaining. Compared to the Zhonglu city and the Mingat city, the Nanyuan city was much more standardized. At least there was no such thing as a pill. After listening for a long time, Ning Cheng already had a general idea of the price. A bottle of qi returning spiritual liquid cost 10 qi gathering stones, and could only restore a portion of the qi of an early-stage qi gathering cultivator. The small spiritual liquid was a kind of spiritual liquid for healing injuries, and its price was 10 qi gathering stones, but it could only be used to treat some ordinary injuries. As for the spiritual liquid with better effects, the price rose sharply. Ning Cheng walked towards a shop assistant who had just finished his work and asked, "Excuse me, do you have any high-grade pills for sale here?" Ning Cheng was very careful. He saw that most of the things sold here were spiritual liquids and pills. He already had some doubts about whether or not he would be able to buy a true condensation pill in the Nanyuan city. A high-grade pill? What pill do you want? Qi recovery pill? Rejuvenation pill? True restoration pill? The shop assistant stared at Ning Cheng and asked. After he finished asking, he then spoke in an extremely arrogant manner. Our Fee and Pill Pavilion is not able to purchase the pills. Even if you go to the other places in the Nanyuan city, you will not be able to purchase them. Of course, if you want to buy a high-grade pill like the True Restoration pill, then you will need to prove your identity, otherwise you will not be able to sell it. The True Restoration pill was only a pill to restore the true essence of an early-stage true condensation cultivator. If this kind of pill required proof of identity, then wouldn't the true condensation pill be even more difficult to buy? Ning Cheng now understood, in this kind of place like the Nanyuan city, one would not be able to buy pills with spirit stones and spiritual grasses. Fortunately he did not act rashly. He said in a slightly exaggerated manner, "According to what you said, if I want to buy a true condensation pill and an essence-building pill, then wouldn't I have to bring out my family tree?" When the surrounding cultivators heard what Ning Cheng said, they couldn't help but laugh. The shop assistant did not care about it and said, "You should be foreign cultivators, as such many of you do not understand the rules of my Nanyuan city. My Nanyuan city's pills are not easy to come by, of course we have to sell them. As for the true condensation pill, I will not say anything about it, even our Fee and Pill Pavilion does not sell it. As for the essence-building pill, I am afraid that even in the entire Ping continent, you would not be able to buy it. According to what you said, even if I find a pile of golden cicada fruits, then I will not be able to get the true condensation pill." Someone in the crowd laughed, and helped Ning Cheng ask the question that he wanted to ask the most. The shop assistant still spoke in a neither fast nor slow manner. "If you really can get the golden cicada fruits, then you would not have to worry about the matter of the true condensation pill. With our Pill Pavilion as the middleman, the Clear Heart Academy and the Mingyi country's pill masters will definitely help you refine pills. Of course, the remuneration for the alchemy is also indispensable." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.